subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Chapter 1, 12 Years a Bad Start. Brothers, please pay attention. It's been 12 years. It's been in ruins for 12 years. Fang Jilai walked aimlessly in the city. There are all kinds of pedestrians around the city. Some are working, some are studying, and everyone is busy with their own lives. No, isn't that a junior high school student? He can actually dunk. Yes, you look like a junior high school student at first glance. His physical talent is so explosive. You're new here, right? That person's name is Aomine Daiki. Even though he is young, he is the strongest in our area. When Fang Lai passed by an outdoor basketball court, he was attracted by the noisy sound inside. He slowly turned around and saw a young man with blue hair and dark skin, jumping high and pouring the basketball into the hoop. Huh, Aomine Daiki? It's just like in the anime, he can dunk in junior high school. Fang Jilai looked at the scene deeply. Seeing a junior high school student dunk in reality and seeing it in an anime are completely different concepts. After traveling to this world, Fang Jilai has been showing off and has never had a real duel with anyone else. Now that he saw one of the protagonists in Black Basket, the fighting spirit in his heart slowly rose, and he wanted to have a duel with Aomine Daiki. King Feng Dahui seemed to feel the aura emanating from a ferocious beast. He turned his head suddenly and stared at Fang Jilai. Who is that person? Why does he exude such a dangerous aura? King Feng Dahui stared at Fang Jilai and invited, "Brother, are you interested in a one-on-one duel?" Huh? He actually invited me. Fang Jilai didn't expect that King Feng Dahui would take the initiative to invite him before he even opened his mouth. Did he know that I was very strong? Okay, Fang Jilai smiled slightly and walked into the stadium. Since everyone has invited me, of course I won't refuse, and it's just a good time to try out the abilities I gain by showing off. Isn't it? That one seems to be a child too. Yes, he actually dared to challenge King Feng to a duel. Even the likes of us wouldn't dare. Make a bet. King Feng will seal him. Is there any point in gambling? Isn't this the fact before us? There were bursts of jeers all around, and no one thought highly of Fang Jilai. Everyone thought that Fang Jilai would be eliminated. Fang Jilai doesn't care about this, because he knows that he is very strong now. How many balls to hit? Aomine Daiki asked with a smile. 5 in a row. Fang Jilai replied lazily. Sequential serve? How dare that kid serve consecutively? He might not even be able to get the ball. Yeah, as soon as Aomine gets the ball, that kid is useless. There were jeers all around. Aomine Dahui frowned. Continuously? So confident? Or do you mean you don't look down on yourself at all? Okay, I'll listen to you. King Feng Dahui casually threw the ball to Fang Jilai. To be honest, King Feng Dahui was very interested in the fighting spirit that Fang Jilai had just exuded. He couldn't wait to challenge such a person in a one-on-one battle. Well, then I'll start. Fang Jilai took the ball and prepared to serve. Oh wait, why don't you warm up and change some clothes? King Feng Dahui looked at Fang Jilai in confusion. There is no other reason. Fang Jilai is now wearing casual clothes, and his shoes are not basketball shoes. Can you really challenge yourself in this way? The more King Feng Dahui looked at it, the more he felt that Fang Jilai was unreliable. There was a hint in his heart that Fang Jilai was only interested in but useless. Well, no need, just leave it like that. Fang Jilai said nonchalantly. Since you were so persistent, let's get started. Aomine Daiki's tone became calm. In his heart, he already regards Fang Jilai as the kind of player who likes to talk big, but only looks good. Even though Fang Jilai's aura was very strong, in King Feng Dahui's heart, Fang Jilai's strong aura might just be something he had by chance. No, he actually challenged King Feng to a duel like this. Isn't this looking for death? Another one who likes to talk big. Just watch. King Feng will teach him how to behave. I hope he won't cry later, huh? Fang Jilai observed King Feng Dahui's position, which was half a body length away from him. Put it in. Are you treating me like a rookie? Fang Jilai smiled helplessly. It seemed that King Feng Dahui had looked down on him, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, his equipment was indeed a bit amateurish. He tried to make a fake shot, but found that Aomine Daiki had no intention of taking off. So he asked, "Are you sure you don't want to come up to defend?" Fang Jilai saw that King Feng Dahui still didn't move, so he no longer hesitated, raised the knife, and threw the basketball with his right hand. The basketball draws a beautiful arc in the air. Brush. The basketball hit the net, and it was a three-pointer. No, he actually scored on King Feng's head. It's your luck. King Feng didn't defend seriously. If King Feng defended seriously, that kid would definitely not get any points. That's right. Isn't this just a three-pointer? King Feng Dahui's expression changed slightly as he listened to Fang Jilai's words. Blind? No, it's not a trick. The movements are very standard, and the shooting speed is extremely fast. This is not an action that a weak person can perform. Nice shot. King Feng Due stood up and applauded, staring at Fang Jilai with burning eyes. Come again. He threw the ball to Fang Jilai and pressed his body tightly against Fang Jilai to prevent him from shooting three-pointers. Seeing that Aomine Daiki was guarding himself so closely in order to prevent himself from shooting a three-pointer, regardless of whether he would break through, he spoke again. "You are too close. If you're defensive like this..." Before he finished speaking, Fang Jilai took off instantly and rushed over like a bolt of lightning. What? King Feng Dahui looked at this scene with a surprised look. He immediately reacted and wanted to chase Fang Jilai. Collapse. The next second, the sound of a basketball being poured into the hoop came from behind Aomine Daiki. At the same time, Fang Jilai's voice came from behind, but he will be passed by in one step. No, that's not it. That kid actually passed Aomine and dunked. No, it's not just a dunk. That dunk is a 360 dunk. Who is he? Even King Feng can't restrain him. Just now, Fang Jilai rushed to the basket after passing King Feng Dahui, jumped up with his left foot, turned around in the air, and dunked the basketball into the basket. So strong. King Feng Dahui stared at the scene blankly. He did not expect that someone of his own age would actually suppress him. Interesting. So much fun. He is getting more and more excited. Finally, a peer of his age can suppress him. He will go all out to treat this game. At this moment, he exuded a special aura, like a wild beast hunting its prey. Huh? Are you already wild now? Fang Jilai looked at this scene with an interested expression. He did not expect that King Feng's wild nature was already possessed at this period. Come on. King Feng Dahui's eyes were sharp, and he kept staring at Fang Jilai's movements. Interesting. Fang Jilai looked at King Feng Dahui with interest. The current King Feng Dahui no longer sticks to Fang Jilai in defense, leaving a very small space. The space is very small, making it easy for him to take off at any time. This position can not only defend shots, but also breakthroughs. It is a very standard defensive posture. However, can this posture really prevent Fang Jilai? Chapter 2, come with us to Teikō on the court. Fang Jilai held the ball in both hands, thrust his right foot out, pretended to release the ball with his right hand, and made a tentative step. King Feng Due was shaken by the probing step, and he took a step back slightly. It was at this step that Fang Jilai seized the opportunity and jumped high quickly. Fake surprise and real surrender. King Feng Dahui knew that he had been deceived. He quickly made up for it and tried to block the shot, but Fang Jilai's height and shot speed were too fast. As soon as he took off, Fang Jilai had already thrown the ball. The basketball arced in the air. Brush. 3 points into the net. Oh my God, it's already 3-0. It's incredible. Am I dreaming? King Feng was actually suppressed. King Feng won't be zero blocked, right? Probably it's unlikely. Damn it, the shooting speed is too fast. It's now 3-0, and Fang Jilai's consecutive goals have made him feel tremendous pressure. Before this match, Aomine Daiki always believed that no one of his age could defeat him. Now Fang Jilai appeared out of nowhere and made him feel emotions he had never experienced before. The next goal must not be allowed to be scored by Fang Jilai. With this idea in mind, King Feng Dahui concentrated his attention and stared at Fang Jilai's movements. Fang Jilai didn't pay attention to King Feng Dahui's movements. He quickly raised his hands and made a shooting motion. Shooting? King Feng Dahui raised his center of gravity slightly. No, it's a fake move. The next second, Fang Jilai suddenly sank down and rushed to the right of King Feng Dahui. King Feng Dahui quickly adjusted his posture and kept up with Fang Jilai's movements. Keeping up? It's interesting. When Fang Jilai saw King Feng Dahui keeping up with his movements, a smile appeared on his face. Come if you can keep up. Bang! Fang Jilai blasted the ball fiercely, using an acceleration movement to hold the ball and prepare to throw away King Feng Dahui. King Feng Dahui did not give up. He pressed his body tightly against Fang Jilai and did not lose his defensive position at all. I also have speed. He roared angrily and began to speed up, blocking Fang Jilai's attack direction. Fang Jilai smiled slightly and said, "Speed does not mean strength." What? When King Feng Dahui was confused, a huge force came from his chest. Bang! He felt as if he had been hit by a car. He took a few steps back and the space became vacant. How was that possible? Why is the power so great? Aomine Daiki retreated all the way to the basket, clutching his sore chest in disbelief. Fang Jilai did not stop. After knocking away King Feng Dahui, he put the ball together with both hands and hit the basket. If you only have the strength, then I will win this game, Fang Jilai said calmly. He exerted force on his left foot and jumped up high. King Feng Dahui, who was under the basket, saw that Fang Jilai was trying to dunk him. He roared angrily and jumped up violently with his legs, trying to block Fang Jilai's dunk. His right hand blocked Fang Jilai's dunk path. Fang Jilai knew that even if he forced a dunk, King Feng Dahui would not be able to stop him. But it's not necessary. Fang Jilai was seen changing movements in the air. His raised hands suddenly retracted. His body passed by King Feng Dahui, and then he was buckled backwards. Bang! Buckle the lever with both hands behind your back. What? Aomine Daiki looked at this scene in surprise in the air. He actually forcibly changed his movements in the air. Is this really something that people of the same age can do? No. No way. Can this action really be done by a junior high school student? Pull. The lever back buckle. This is the first time I have seen. It's 4-0. Is King Feng really going to get 0? Huh. A beautiful figure ran from outside to the court. Ada. The pink-haired girl called Aomine Daiki's name, but she stopped when she saw Aomine Daiki staying there silently. This was the first time she saw Aomine Daiki in such a miserable state. She turned around and asked the passersby around her, "Hello, classmate. What happened here?" A passerby asked Momoi. It was the first time he saw such a beautiful woman, and he suddenly became nervous. That's it. A passerby told what happened. After hearing this, Momoi covered her mouth with one hand. Ada was actually suppressed. King Feng Dahui, it's 4 o'clock. If you only have the strength, there is no need to continue playing. Fang Jilai said casually as he turned the ball with his finger. You know me? King Feng Dahui suddenly raised his head and looked at this scene in disbelief. He knows me. Not only does he know me, but he also suppresses me. But why haven't I discovered such a master before? Of course we know each other. What? Do you still want to fight? Fang Jilai asked beat. A fighting spirit appeared in King Feng Dahui's eyes, and there was a hint of blue light in his eyes. Zone? Already standing in front of the door. Fang Jilai watched this scene calmly and threw the ball to King Feng Dahui. What do you mean? Aomine Daiki caught the ball and asked doubtfully. Give you a chance? Otherwise you won't touch the ball. Fang Jilai waved his hands indifferently and took a defensive position. King Feng Dahui was no longer humble. He leaned forward slightly. His whole body was as quiet as a cheetah before hunting. Which way to go? Left or right? King Feng Dahui analyzed Fang Jilai's position and simulated a breakthrough scene in his mind. The left side will be blocked, the right side will be intercepted, and there will be no breakthrough. He suddenly came back to his senses, and his whole body was instantly wet with sweat. Why? Why can't we break through? Damn it. Now is not the time to be stunned. If you can't break through, then shoot. Thinking of this, King Feng jumped up suddenly. All I'm waiting for is you taking off. Fang Jilai jumped up high and blocked King Feng Dahui's shooting path. Damn it, how could you jump so high? You have to be blocked. If not, I'm a score goal. Click. A blue lightning flashed from King Feng Dahui's eyes, and his body slowly lay back in the air. Well, zone. Didn't Aomine Daiki not bloom during this period? Fang Jilai watched King Feng Dahui's changes in the air, feeling very confused. Isn't the zone of King Feng Dahui supposed to be opened after it blooms later? How could it be opened on the first day of the new year? No. Why did that person jump so high? Look, King Feng's actions. Hey, are you kidding? Your body is already parallel to the ground. I saw Aomine Dahui's entire body parallel to the ground, as if lying in the air. Layback jump shot in zone mode. Fang Jilai watched this scene calmly. The current Aomine Dahui has not completely mastered the indefinite shooting. It must have been a last resort move. For the current King Feng, this move can't score a goal at all, let alone from outside the three-point line. Aomine Daiki threw the ball towards the basket with all his strength. The basketball passed through Fang Jilai's finger, which was an extreme shot. The basketball hit the back edge of the basket and bounced high. Come in, you must come in. Momoi watched this scene nervously, clasping his hands tightly. Let me in. Aomine Daiki roared, trying to get the basketball into the basket. Fang Jilai watched this scene quietly, still wondering why King Feng Dahui, who was in the first grade of junior high school, entered the zone. Chapter 3 in Army Dang. Brush. After the basketball bounced high 3 times, it entered the basket with difficulty. Got in. So lucky? Fang Jilai was stunned, but he didn't expect King Feng Dahui to be very lucky. Who? King Feng Dahui gasped for air. He felt as if his body was as heavy as carrying a mountain on his back. Come again. He stood up with difficulty and wanted to continue the game. Ada, you can't hit me anymore. You will get hurt if you hit me. Momoi rushed over and tried to dissuade Aomine Daiki. No, I'm in good condition now, King Feng Dahui said with a stubborn tone as his legs trembled. Not a zone. No, it's definitely zone. It seems that in a desperate situation, the door was pushed open a crack. I'm afraid he didn't even notice it himself. Fang Jilai sighed in his heart. King Feng Dahui's talent was really strong, and he was the first to blossom, and he could even withstand pressure and grow in desperate situations. Such a talent is truly terrifying. He came back to his senses, looked at the stubborn Aomine Daiki, waved his hand, and said, "You should rest. Your current state is not enough for you to continue playing." No, it took a lot of effort to find such an opponent. If you can't compete with him, then what's the point of playing basketball? King Feng Dahui said stubbornly. He didn't want to give up such an opponent. The game can be played at any time. The body is the most important. It doesn't have to be decided right now, Fang Jilai said casually. And tell me, let alone playing basketball like this, can you walk? Then where can I find you in the future? King Feng Dahui tried to lift his feet, but found that he really had no energy left. So he asked unwillingly. The black-haired boy in front of him looks absent-minded on the surface, but his strength is really terrifying. Wearing casual clothes and without warming up, he suppressed himself until he was unable to fight back. This is the first time I have seen Aomine Daiki, a person of his own age. If Fang Jilai hadn't given him the offensive opportunity, he might have been blocked. I don't know, just let it go. Fang Jilai really didn't know where to meet King Feng, so he could only say casually, "Do you have a school?" Momoi interjected. "No," Fang Jilai replied, "because it's not the start of school yet. Fang Jilai hasn't decided which school he wants to go to. How about you come with us, Teik?" Momoi smiled and extended his hand to invite Fang Jilai. Fang Jilai was slightly startled when he looked at Momoi, who stretched out his hand. It has to be said that at this stage, Momoi's ambitious intentions have already begun to appear. Teik. There are many experts in the Teik basketball club. Akashi Sejiro, Atsushi Murasakura, Midorima Shintarō, etc. will also join Teik in the near future. It is an era of miracles in the future. If you go in by yourself, it will indeed add a lot of fun to boring days. Fang Jilai stretched out his hand to hold Momoi's and said, "Well, I'll be with you." "Really? Then we can fight each other every day from now on." Aomine Daiki said excitedly that if Fang Jilai entered Teik, he would be able to challenge him every day in the future. Let's talk about it. You are too weak now. Fang Jilai shook his head and said helplessly, I will work hard. Aomine Daiki responded. Then we'll see you when school starts. Momoi said with a smile. Good. The system opens my panel. Fang Jilai checked his system on the way home. Host, Fang Jilai. Age, 12. Height, 176. Weight, 70 kilograms. Wingspan, 192. The mess continues to be strengthened. Looking at his own panel, there are only bare data and no skills. He knows that skills are no longer important to him now, because he can already integrate skills into his body, and any movement is a skill. And as long as it continues to be bad, the data will continue to strengthen. A gust of breeze blew up, bringing the intoxicating fragrance of unknown flowers from afar, but also took the cherry blossoms on the branches away from the branches. Countless cherry blossom petals danced in the wind, like pink gauze floating in the wind, which made people can't help but suspect that they are in a dream. On both sides of the campus, many clubs are clamoring for freshmen to join their clubs. Fang Jilai walked aimlessly on the path, admiring the cherry blossoms. Admire all kinds of beautiful legs and blue hair on campus. Wait, cyan hair? Nah, Alai. King Feng Dahui danced and waved in the distance, calling Fang Jilai loudly. Passers-by around him were attracted by Aomine Daiki's shouts. Momoi stayed quietly beside Aomine Daiki, with a helpless smile on his face. Why is this idiot here? Fang Jilai turned around and left without any hesitation. Hey, why are Alai running? King Feng Dahui looked at Fang Jilai, who turned to leave in confusion. He was very confused as to why Fang Jilai turned around and left without a trace of hesitation when he saw him. Well, maybe it's Mrs. Momoi looked at Aomine Daiki speechlessly, and everyone around him also stared at Aomine Daiki and Momoi. A monkey-looking expression. Let's go. Momoi pushed Aomine Daiki away from the venue. I don't want him to continue to be embarrassed. In the afternoon, Fang Jilai walked into the basketball club alone. What greeted him was a head of cyan hair. Why is it you again? Hey, Alai, what a coincidence, we meet again. Fang Jilai looked at King Feng Dahui speechlessly, wondering why he was there everywhere. Alai, let's have a duel. King Feng Dahui looked at Fang Jilai with a fighting spirit. Let's wait until we enter the basketball club. Fang Jilai said perfunctorily. First, we will conduct a group test. Only one army can participate in the official competition as a main selection. A voice came out at this time. I heard this time that almost no one can pass the test and enter the first army. Really? You can only reach the second army at most. It's so difficult. Then let's target the second army for this test. Come on. Hey, Alai, do you think we can enter the first army? Aomine Daiki asked carelessly, saying this. In fact, he was not worried about the test date at all. Fang Jilai glanced at King Feng Dahui helplessly. I can enter. After the afternoon test, the assistant teacher walked up to everyone, took out the list, and shouted, Now let's announce the group list. Starting from the three armies, the students whose names are called stand in front of the coach of the three armies. Number 2, Nobuo Saito. Number 4, number 31, Kuroko Tetsuya, the above classmates. In the crowd, a young man with blue hair and a slightly short height, who seemed to have no sense of presence in the crowd, was secretly feeling sad. He recalled the oath he had made with his friends and ran helplessly to the ranks of the three armies. The list of the second army will be announced next. Awesome, I'm in the second army. Several players in the crowd said thankfully. Number 14, Kuroki Dai. Number 35, Masao Yagi. Finally, announced the list of the first army. Did he just say an army? It won't happen. There were bursts of surprise in the basketball hall. They didn't expect that there was an army among them. Number 8, Aomine Daiki. King Feng Dahui, who was standing next to Fang Jilai, had a proud smile on his face. Alai, did you hear that? I am an army. Yeah, I heard it. Fang Jilai replied casually. Number 11, Midorima Shintarō. Number 23, Atsushi Murasakibara. Number 29, Akashi Sejiro. Number 7, Fang Jilai, the above classmates. No, they are an army. Are you so strong? Needless to say, they must be very strong. Students who did not join the second army this time should work hard. Yes, Kuroko Tetsuya stood in the crowd and felt sad. Chapter 4 Crotch Dunk the next day. An army assembled. Now let's fight in groups. First graders versus second graders. Hey Alai, let's fight with the second graders. King Feng Dahue stood next to Fang Jilai and said excitedly. The second-year students in the first army are equivalent to the main team of Teikō Middle School, and they're also at the top level nationwide. Their selection is extremely strict, with those who are capable being promoted and those who are mediocre being demoted. The weak prey on the strong. Under this system, the strength of the second graders in the first army can be said to be extremely strong. But for such a strong team, Aomine Daiki wanted to confront them head-on. Blue team, point guard, Haizaki Shogo. Shooting guard, Midorima Shintarō. Small forward, Fang Jilai. Power forward, Aomine Daiki. Center, Satsuki Momoi. Both sides are in position. Beep. The game officially begins. Satsuki Momoi and sophomore senior jump ball. As soon as the ball was thrown up by the referee, Satsuki Momoi jumped straight up and picked the ball behind him. Is he a monster? The second-year center, who was responsible for jumping the ball with Satsuki Momoi, looked at the scene in front of him with a dull expression. He had already jumped up hard, but the guy he was facing was like a rocket, snatching the ball away in an instant. How come that first grader jumps so high? Jumps so high. Hey, Alai, have you seen that guy with purple hair jump so high? Aomine looked excited. He didn't expect there to be such a strong player in Teikō. I saw it. He is very strong. Fang Jilai looked at this scene calmly. He who is familiar with the original work certainly knows how foul Satsuki Momoi is. Whether it is physical fitness or talent, he is completely rewarded by God. The game starts again. Haizaki Shogo dribbled the ball through the half and threw the ball to Fang Jilai. The ball was given to me? You really think highly of me. Come on, let me teach the newcomers a lesson. The second-year small forward looked at Fang Jilai with sharp eyes, as if Fang Jilai was the one in his pocket. At the edge of the arena, many people came one after another to watch. Many students in training came to the sidelines. For the first time, the coaches of the second and third armies agreed to let them watch the game. Of course, the students did not refuse such a good thing. After all, watching the first army's games can allow them to accumulate a lot of game experience. They quickly surrounded the entire stadium, and the stadium was immediately packed. Fang Jilai stood at the top of the three-point arc with the ball, looking at the second-year small forward with his hands open, 2 full bodies away from him. Why does everyone on defense like to shoot? He looked speechlessly at the second-year senior who was guarding him. The senior was 2 full positions away from him, and he was completely in a position where he was focused on shooting but not on sudden attacks. Don't you like stepping forward to defend? He said this calmly and then jumped up high. What? The second-year small forward wanted to stop it, but before he could start, Fang Jilai had already thrown the basketball. What kind of shooting speed is this? He looked at this scene in surprise. At this height and speed, even if he was in front of him, he couldn't block him. The angle is right, it went in. Midorima Shintarō looked at this scene, and a sense of fighting spirit ignited in his heart. I didn't expect there was someone on the team who could shoot 3-pointers so accurately, and his shooting speed was much faster than mine. Brush. The basketball hit the net. 3 points are valid. The audience on the stage cheered. Oh my God, that first grader moves so fast. To be honest, with this shooting speed, even senior Hongsuin may not be able to block the shot. I can't say for sure. After all, Nijimura Senpai is the #1 power forward in the middle school. It's more than enough to play at this level for a year. However, with such a shooting speed, that first-year player will definitely achieve great results in the future. After King Feng Dahue saw the goal, he immediately rushed forward and held Fang Jilai's neck, saying, Alai, your 3-pointer is so amazing. This is the first time I've seen a shot taken so fast. Every time he sees Fang Jilai shooting, King Feng Dahue will be amazed. It was too fast. Fang Jilai's attack was so fast that people could hardly react. In other words, as long as Fang Jilai's shooting is always online, he will always be the most stable scorer in the team. The second-year small forward's face became a little unsightly, and his teammates quickly stepped forward to comfort him. It's okay. That first-year shooter is indeed a bit fast. Just pay attention to his shooting later. The second-year small forward nodded and said, "Can you give me the ball for the next offense?" The second-year point guard was stunned for a moment and then nodded. He knew that his teammate was scored on the head by a first-year player, and he was definitely not convinced. Since he wanted to give it back, he would definitely choose to help him. Sophomore serve. The point guard brings the ball across half court and passes it to the small forward beyond the three-point line. "Boy, I'm going to score on your head next. I'm looking forward to it." Fang Jilai didn't care and looked at him casually. "You actually looked down on me." After the second-year small forward saw that he was being looked down upon, anger rippled in his heart. He slammed the ball and broke through to Fang Jilai's right. Upon seeing this, Fang Jilai immediately blocked his offensive route. "Reach out and slam the ball down." What? The second-year small forward did not expect that a first-year player could not only score in his face, but also intercept the ball on the defensive end. This is the first time in all his years of playing basketball that he has been crushed by someone smaller than him. Fang Jilai intercepted the ball and ran forward quickly, and the second-year players all wanted to return to defense. How could it be so fast? The second-year point guard was the first to react. He turned around and wanted to return to defense, but he didn't even catch Fang Jilai's taillight. "Look at that first grader. Why is he so fast?" Yes, he's the only one in the front court. Fang Jilai quickly rushed to the basket, exerted force with his left foot, jumped up high, switched the basketball from his crotch to his right hand with his left hand, and then poured the basketball into the basket with his right hand. Collapse. A dull sound came out, and the stadium was silent for a moment. After a moment of silence, the arena emitted the slightest sound. "Are you kidding? Please pinch me. Am I dreaming? Still, it hurts. I wasn't dreaming. That first grader really dunked." Or crotch dunk? Who is he? Why have I never heard of it? After the second-year player Fang Jilai dunked, they fell into silence. "Hey, is this really a first-year guy?" the sophomore shooting guard asked. Yes, it seems. I have to retire to the bench," the second-year small forward said with a dull look. He also knew that when Fang Jilai hit this dunk, his starting position had already been given away. With such a talented person, it is impossible for the coach not to let him start. There were some unconvinced emotions at first, but they all disappeared after this dunk. There was no way. He really couldn't beat Fang Jilai. "You're okay. You played for at least a year. I've always been a substitute." The second-year power forward consoled him. He has always been a substitute player for Nijimura, and he only plays during garbage time in official games. Now he is able to play in the training match because Hongsu and Shizuo did not come to the arena. The coach, who has been watching the game outside the stadium, looks very calm on the surface, but in fact he is very happy in his heart. "I found a treasure. I found a treasure." Chapter 5. Do your best to wait for destiny. Found a treasure. Fang Jilai's shooting speed, such explosive physical talent, and his skills in defense are also very good. He can already be the starting small forward of the First Army. Next, if several other players also have good strength. That Teik's future overlord plan. No one can stop it. On the field, the black-haired guy is too strong, said the second-year point guard. When holding the ball, try to avoid his defense. If he gets the ball on the offensive end, he must be double-teamed and restricted, otherwise it will be difficult for us to win. The main controller told everyone the tactics. He knew that if he could not effectively restrain Fang Jilai, then Fang Jilai would tear apart his defense like a beast. The second-year small forward nodded heavily. He prefers the team's victory to personal honors. The red team served, and the sophomore point guard brought the ball across half-court. Looking at Akashi Shijiro, who was guarding him in front of him, he thought secretly in his heart, "I can't give it to the small forward. That first-year player is too scary. There's no good offensive space for other teammates. The red-haired man in front of me doesn't seem very strong. You can fight it yourself." The second-year point guard continuously dribbled under his hips to test Akashi Shitaro's center of gravity. Suddenly, Akashi Shijiro broke through from the right. Akashi Shijiro quickly blocked his offensive path and stretched out his hand to intercept the ball. Upon seeing this, the second-year point guard quickly pulled the ball back and retreated to the three-point line to reorganize the offense. Are all first-graders perverts now? I can't even get past him. Here. The second-year center blocked Atsushi Murasakibara and stretched out his right hand for the ball. Atsushi Murasakibara stood behind him in a daze with a cute expression. When the second-year point guard saw that his center was already in position and reached for the ball, he immediately passed the ball over. Since my teammates can't score, it's up to me. After the second-year center caught the ball, he pushed his body back and turned for a layup. Atsushi Murasakibara jumped up suddenly and flew the basketball with his palm like it was blocking the sky. The second-year center couldn't believe it. Seeing that the opponent had been staying under the basket and not making any moves, he casually made a layup. Unexpectedly, Atsushi Murasakibara jumped so high and shot his layup straight away. After the basketball was shot, Fang Jilai took the lead to pick it up and then made a long pass to King Fong, who had already reached the opposite basket. Thanks. A lot. Aomine Daiki caught the ball, jumped up excitedly, and poured the basketball into the basket. Collapse. Are you kidding? Did you dunk again? Yes. What on earth is going on with these two first-year students? Good pass, Alai. King Fong Dahue excitedly ran to Fang Jilai and gave him a big hug. Everyone in the second grade lowered their heads in silence at this moment. They originally thought that Fang Jilai was already a special case, but they didn't expect that there were also Aomine Daiki and Atsushi Murasakibara. Atsushi Murasakibara, except for the jump ball in the opening game, stayed under the basket without any action. Then, because of Fang Jilai's dunk, they forgot that there was such a talented monster under the basket in the first grade. And Aomine Daiki, his speed also surprised everyone. It's okay. We're only a few points behind. Let's beat it back. The second-year center comforted and sent the ball out again. The second-year point guard dribbled the ball across half court, and his center came to pick and roll. After Akashi Sejiro was blocked, the second-year point guard saw that there was no one in front of him to defend him, and he felt a little confused. Why is no one defending? The mind is confused, and the actions are quick. He raised the knife and threw the basketball. Brush. 3 points are valid. Good shot. The second-year center came to the side and praised. Thanks, but why is there no one guarding me? The second-year point guard replied. That's because the purple-haired guy didn't move at all, the second-year power forward said. Hearing his words, the second-year point guard looked back at Atsushi Murasakibara standing under the basket. I saw Atsushi Murasakibara standing under his own basket without any action, standing on the court with an indifferent expression. Hey, why don't you move? Daiki Aomine walked up to Atsushi Murasakibara and scolded him with a black line on his face. Atsushi Murasakibara looked cute and said, "Isn't this a training match? It's not a competition. You guys, you have to move even in training matches." Aomine Daiki roared as veins appeared on his head. Fang Jilai looked at the two people speechlessly. This is in line with Atsushi Murasakibara's style. Okay, stop arguing, finish the game seriously, and I'll treat you to a big dinner after the game. Fang Jilai dissuaded the two of them wordlessly and also said his special move. Big dinner. Atsushi Murasakibara looked surprised. His favorite thing was eating, and he would definitely not miss it if someone invited him to dinner. Yes, I'll treat you to it if you win the game, Fang Jilai said with a smile. Atsushi Murasakibara suddenly became more motivated to fight, staring at the second graders with eyes like fire. Serving again, Atsushi Murasakibara did not pass the ball to Akashi Sejiro, but passed the ball to Fang Jilai, who was treating him to a feast. Fang Jilai looked at the basketball in his hand with a speechless expression. One meal activated Atsushi Murasakibara, and it seems that I will know how to deal with him in the future. Fang Jilai looked at Akashi Sejiro and found that Akashi Sejiro just smiled and ran to the front court. It looks like you are here to organize the attack. Seeing this, Fang Jilai smiled helplessly and slowly pushed the ball to the front court. Fang Jilai doesn't like to play alone. He likes to open up his field of vision and observe the positions of his opponents and his teammates. He began to read the positions of his opponents and teammates and analyze how he could score more effectively. He just seemed to be doing an ordinary job of reading the floor. But it's different in the eyes of others. What they saw in their eyes was that ripples began to appear under Fang Jilai's feet, and the ripples enveloped the entire stadium in an instant. Everyone felt like they were locked in a gaze, as if no matter what they did, they would be noticed. Akashi Shijiro stared at this scene blankly, in disbelief. Who is he, and why does he feel like he's been seen through? The next second, the basketball flew straight into the hands of Midorima Shintarō. Midorima Shintarō looked at the basketball in his hand in confusion. He thought he couldn't get the ball in this game. Unexpectedly, Fang Jilai actually passed the ball to himself after exuding the ability to see through everyone. This made Midorima Shintarō even more interested in Fang Jilai. Since you believe me so much. Midorima Shintarō jumped high and pushed the basketball out with his left hand. Then I will do my best to wait for destiny. The basketball flew high into the sky with a huge arc. Today's divination. Cancer has the best fortune, and the lucky thing is a water glass. So, there's no way I'm going to miss the ball. After Midorima Shintarō finished shooting the ball, he pushed up his glasses and turned around to return to defense. But when he saw Fang Jilai, who had returned to his three-point line, he was stunned. Chapter 6-5 Monsters. Why does the guy trust his shot so much when he's back on defense? Midorima Shintarō couldn't believe that someone who had never been in contact with him would trust his shooting so much. In an instant, a recognized emotion arose in his heart. He returned to Fang Jilai and asked, "Why did you go back to defense directly?" Fang Jilai looked confused. After Midorima Shintarō threw the basketball, he had already seen that the arc of the basketball was very straight. In addition, Midorima Shintaro's shooting percentage in the original book was almost 100%. So after Midorima Shintarō shot the basketball, he turned around and returned to defense without a trace of hesitation. "Well, because I believe in you." Fang Jilai didn't know how to reply, so he had to give a random reason to pass it off. "Look, believe me?" Midorima Shintarō stood there blankly. Fang Jilai's words kept echoing in his mind, and a feeling of recognition and trust instantly filled his mind. "Thank you." Shintarō Midorima thanked him seriously. His thanks made Fang Jilai even more confused. "What's going on with this green hair? Why are you so moved all of a sudden?" "You're welcome," Fang Jilai politely replied. "Let's play seriously." "Yes," Midorima Shintarō replied, turning around to take up his position. "That guy's three-point arc is so high." "That's right." And he turned around and went back to defend immediately after throwing the ball. How confident is this? Isn't that the point? The point is the black-haired first-year guy. He can return to defense faster than the green-haired one. On the field, Fang Jilai and others took the lead. The second grade fell behind, which was unexpected to everyone present. The main force of the first-year army, which used to be invincible in the competition, was actually suppressed by the first-year players. Although Nijimura Shuzo did not play, the others are all Teik's solid main players. The coach on the sidelines showed a trace of excitement in his eyes. Sent. Just two people, Fang Jilai and Aomine Daiki, are enough to make Teik brilliant. Fang Jilai not only has a stable shooting hand, but also shows excellent court vision. These 2 points are enough to make Fang Jilai the real pillar of the team. Aomine Daiki's extreme speed and a casual and elegant shooting touch make him the team's leading scorer. Just 2 people are not enough. There are 3 more talents in the team. Atsushi Murasakibara has excellent physical talent and rare dynamic talent. Midorima Shintarō's shooting accuracy is extremely high, and he is extremely confident in his own shooting. This is the mentality that a good shooter must have. Akashi Shijiro has excellent vision, is good at connecting the team, and can handle things well both on and off the court. These 5 people will become Teik's starting players in the future, which is scary just thinking about it. "Coach, I'm late." Nijimura Shuzo walked up to the coach and asked, "Did something happen in the arena? Why are so many people watching?" The coach pointed to the game on the field and said to him, "Look, they will be our Teik starting players from now on." Hongsu and Shiojua turned his attention to the court, where the second-year seniors were organizing an attack. "You have to be tactical," the second-year point guard said. He raised his finger to indicate that everyone was surrounding the tactical attack. "Coach, are you kidding me? They were beaten by first-year students and have to use tactics?" Nijimura Seizu looked at this scene in disbelief and asked. The coach didn't reply and nodded to continue reading. The second-year power forward blocked Akashi Shijiro, and the point guard took advantage of the situation and faced Aomine Daiki. When Daiki Aomine thought the second-year point guard was going to attack, he saw the point guard pass the ball. What? He looked back and found that the power forward he was facing had already moved down to one step away from the free throw line. The second-year power forward caught the ball, bent his knees slightly, and jumped up to shoot. Don't even think about it. Atsushi Momoi, tempted by the feast, rushed forward to block the shot. Sophomore Atsushi Momoi came up. He smashed the ball to the ground and passed it to the center with a ground pass. Well done. The center jumped high after receiving the ball, bound to vent all the grievances he had just suffered on the basket. He raised his hands high, trying to slam the basketball into the basket. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Hey, don't act like I don't exist. Fang Jilai jumped up high and slapped the basketball hard with his left hand, competing with the second-year center in the air. Obviously, although the second-year center is stronger than others, when facing Fang Jilai, his strength is much weaker, and he was photographed instantly. The center was knocked to the ground by Fang Jilai's power and did not get up for a long time. He stared blankly at Fang Jilai in front of him. He didn't expect that a first-year small forward could actually suppress a center like himself in terms of strength. Quick attack. Akashi Shogoro picked up the ball and rushed forward with all his strength. The second-year point guard quickly followed behind him, and suddenly a figure passed by him. It was Aomine Daiki. Aomine Daiki surpassed the second-year point guard in an instant and ran straight under the basket. What a joke. How could it be so fast? The second-year point guard wants to catch up with Aomine Daiki, but it is an illusion after all. Akashi Shogoro threw the ball into the sky, and Aomine Daiki jumped up high to grab the basketball and dunk it in. The next half of the game is almost a personal show for the first graders. They discovered that when they defended Fang Jilai alone, Fang Jilai could use various moves to break through them. Sometimes I don't even want to use skills and just push flat with my body or shoot with my face. They couldn't resist it at all, so they had to choose to be surrounded by multiple people. But when multiple people double team, Fang Jilai can use his weird vision and passing to pass the basketball to other teammates, allowing them to score. It would be okay if he was the only one who organized the whole game, in which case they wouldn't be so desperate. But the problem is that there is also a point guard on their team, Akashi Shogoro. When Fang Jilai no longer held the ball, Akashi Shogoro stepped forward. He did not focus on offense and just used organization to connect the rest of the players. Atsushi Momoi under the basket frequently bombarded the basket. Fang Jilai's promise made the purple-haired boy active. Midorima Shintarō also had a hot hand on the outside, and three-pointers rained down frequently. As long as he threw the ball, he never missed it. Such a combination left the second-year seniors with no hope of winning. They were sad and happy at the same time. Sadly, after this game, they should be announced to have withdrawn from the main selection. Fortunately, with such strong first-year juniors, Teikō Middle School can be said to be invincible in the next 3 years. No school can compete with it. Thinking of this, they were all relieved. The only blame was their own lack of strength. The final sound of the game sounded. The score was fixed at 88-47. The coach's voice also came out at this moment. The first army is assembled. Chapter 7, I don't want to be the vice captain. Are you kidding? The main player in our school was beaten like this by a first grader. Yes, the score is completely different by more than 30 points. What are you talking about? There is obviously a 41-point difference. Just tell me if it's more than 30. It's incredible. This first grade class is incredible. I've already seen our Teikō 3 consecutive victories. An army assembled. The coach's voice came out. Everyone gathered together, waiting for the coach's instructions. The coach led Nijimura to the center of the arena. It is now announced that the main candidates to represent the school in the competition are Number 29, Akashi Shogoro. Number 11, Midorima Shintarō. Number 7, Fang Jilai. Number 4, Built-in Hongsun. Number 23, Atsushi Momoi. There are substitutes. Number 8, Aomine Daiki. Number 40. The above is the list for this issue. The coach read out the list, and the second-year regulars who had just played all lowered their heads in disappointment. They all know that their main position will be replaced after the game, but when they actually hear the news, they will inevitably feel a little disappointed. However, they soon relaxed and adjusted their mentality in time. After all, these first-year students were really strong. With them here, Teikō will be invincible in the next 3 years. Of course, there are people who are dissatisfied. "I don't accept it," Kingmine Dahoe shouted angrily. "Why am I a substitute?" The coach glanced at Aomine Daiki lightly, pointed at Nijimura Shizo next to him, and said, "Because your position overlaps with Hongsuin, but Hongsuin will basically not play in the next game." King Feng Dahoe looked at Hongsuin building with his eyes fixed on it. He had heard of Nijimura Shizo, the #1 power forward in the middle school. He might not be able to beat him now, but that didn't mean he wouldn't be able to beat him in the future. King Feng Dahoe snorted arrogantly and did not refute. "Now there's one more thing for your captain to announce." The coach glanced at Hongsun Zuzu and motioned for him to talk about this matter. Nijimura Shizo nodded, took a step forward and shouted, "Now we will discuss it with the coach and decide. Fang Jilai will serve as the team's vice captain." As soon as these words came out, other members of the club started talking about it. "He's only in the 1st grade, and he's already the vice captain. Others should do it. Don't you look at the strength of others and ask you to challenge them to a duel? If you win, you will be the captain. Isn't this what I'm saying? If you ask me to fight him, aren't you looking for abuse?" When everyone thought Fang Jilai would agree, he raised his hand and expressed his thoughts. "I don't want to be vice captain." After he finished speaking, not only the coach and Nijimura Shizo were surprised, but even Aomine Daiki and others beside him were also surprised. "What are you talking about, Alai? That's the vice captain." King Feng Dahoe pulled Fang Jilai anxiously and tried his best to dissuade him. Even if he wants to be elected, he has no chance. There is a Hongsuin repairman who keeps suppressing him. There is nothing he can do. But Fang Jilai was not only selected as the main player, but the coach also promoted him to be the vice captain. But he didn't want to be. This made Aomine Daiki, who was not selected as the main candidate, very anxious. "No, vice captain. Why shouldn't he do it? I don't know either. If I did it, I would wake up laughing. You'd better forget it. With your strength, who can you beat?" Fang Jilai didn't care what other people thought. He curled his lips and said, "I think I'm a lazy person, so I'm not suitable to be the vice captain." Just kidding. Fang Jilai is used to showing off, so asking him to be the vice captain doesn't give him something to do. Isn't it nice to play ball, go shopping, and see my sister? Whoever wants to be the vice captain can be the vice captain, but I don't deserve it anyway. He looked at the coach's somewhat angry expression and had a new idea in his mind. "But I can recommend someone to you." After the words fell, the tangled Hongten Shiozao asked, "Who?" "Akashi Sejiro," Fang Jilai said lightly. Akashi Sejiro looked at Fang Jilai in surprise. He didn't know why. Why did this person not want to be the vice captain himself, but instead recommended me to be the vice captain? Fang Jilai showed extraordinary strength from the field. This kind of strength did not choose to continue training, but chose to be lazy. This behavior makes Akashi Sejiro, who is currently very diligent, a little confused. "Can you tell me the reason?" The coach said coldly. "This Fang Jilai." He was not willing to promote him to be the vice captain. Although Akashi Sejiro's ability is excellent, in the eyes of the coach, Akashi Sejiro is completely inferior to Kamurai. Akashi-san can connect teammates on the court. Every teammate hopes to have a point guard like Akashi-san. Moreover, Akashi-san is also able to manage the relationship between each teammate well off the court. At the same time, Akashi has the potential to discover talents. He can clearly understand the shortcomings of others and make suggestions for changes. If such a capable Akashi-san cannot be elected vice captain, it will be a loss for us Teikō. That's why I recommend Akashi-san. His abilities can definitely serve as the vice captain. What Fang Jilai said was so emotional, and he was moved by every word. It can be said that God would shed tears after hearing this. Akashi Sejiro couldn't escape this set of combos, and his eyes turned slightly red. His father had been very strict with him since he was a child and required him to be first in everything. This also led to his extremely strong self-esteem, and his only beliefs were winning and being first. But even so, he didn't hear any praise from his father. Now that such a person has come to recognize him, He feels very touched, but it still cannot change his desire for victory. He felt in his heart that Fang Jilai was just better than him now, and he would definitely catch up later. Since Mr. Fang has said so, let Mr. Akashi serve as the vice captain. The coach nodded helplessly. He also saw Akashi Shijiro's ability. Now that Fang Jilai doesn't want to be the vice captain, he can only leave it to Akashi Shijiro. Thank you, coach. Akashi Shijiro bowed slightly and thanked him. No need to thank you. Just thank you for your ability. Today's training ends here. Dismissal. After the coach finished speaking, everyone walked out of the gym. Fang Jilai was no exception. He turned around and walked towards Atsushi Murasakibara and Aomine Daiki. What you promise others must be fulfilled. He saw Shintaro, Midorima, and Shijiro Akashi not leaving the court, so he thought it wouldn't matter if there were a few more people, as his family had money anyway. He stepped forward and invited, "We're going to have a dinner. Will you come with us?" Midorima Shintarō and Akashi Shijiro looked at Fang Jilai in confusion when they heard that he came to invite them to dinner. The two looked at Atsushi Murasakibara and Aomine Daiki, who were standing behind Fang Jilai, then nodded and said, "Okay, let's go." Fang Jilai led everyone out of the arena. What comes into view after coming out is a beautiful pink figure. "Hey, Fang Jilai." Momoi looked at the 5 people walking together in confusion and asked, "Where are you going?" "Satsuki, you came just in time. Alai invited us to have a big dinner. Shall we come together?" Aomine Daiki explained cheerfully. When she heard that it was a big dinner, or 5 people together, she, who had been smart since she was a child, immediately guessed that the 3 people behind were the future teammates of Fang Jilai and King Feng Dahui. She nodded and replied, "Okay." Chapter 8 Competition. Fang Jilai led everyone to a store. Aomine Dahui looked at the barbecue restaurant in front of him, and his saliva flew out of his mouth. Barbecue, barbecue. He ignored everyone and rushed in directly. Momoi looked at Aomine Daiki speechlessly, then turned around and said sheepishly, "I'm sorry. Daiki has always been like this." Fang Jilai nodded and replied, "It's okay. I'm used to it." He led everyone into the barbecue restaurant. After choosing the ingredients, they began to discuss what happened today. "I have to say, Midorima, your 3-point shooting is so accurate." Daiki Aomine praised carelessly. "You are the second most accurate I have ever seen." Midorima Shintarō was obviously taken aback. He pushed up his glasses with his fingers and said, "I'm just following fate. Who is the most accurate person you have ever seen?" Rather than answering Aomine Daiki's question, he cared more about Aomine Daiki's last words. After all, he would not allow anyone to be more accurate than him. "Of course, Alai. He is the most accurate shooter I have ever seen." King Feng Dahui hooked Fang Jilai's shoulder, patted his chest, and said. Midorima Shintarō didn't reply, but fighting spirit ignited in his heart. You must find a chance to compete with him. By the way, has Murasakibara-kun always been like this? Satsuki Momoi's confused voice came out. Everyone looked at Atsushi Murasakibara. I saw Atsushi Murasakibara holding a fork in one hand and a knife in the other, turning his head to look at the barbecue on the next table. There was a hungry expression on his face, and saliva slowly flowed down his open mouth. When the guests at the next table saw Atsushi Murasakibara looking at them with a strange expression, they all stood up and ran out, shouting the word idiot in their mouths. Everyone looked at Atsushi Murasakibara speechlessly, with expressions on their faces as if they didn't know him at all. He only behaves like this when he sees food. Akashi Shijiro explained to prevent further misunderstandings. Speaking of which, Akashi-san is so awesome. He became the vice captain as soon as he entered the club. Satsuki Momoi praised. No, actually the vice captain was originally Alai's, but Alai, a brat, said he didn't want to be. King Feng Dahui obviously still remembered this scene, and explained with an expression of hatred on his face. Satsuki Momoi was shocked by what Aomine Daiki said. I originally thought Akashi Shijiro was the vice captain, but unexpectedly the first choice was Fang Jilai. No way. I think Akashi-san is more capable than me, so I don't want to be the vice captain, Fang Jilai argued. After all, only those who are capable can serve as vice captain. Don't you think so, substitute player Aomine Daiki? He had an evil smile on his face, glanced at King Feng Dehui slightly, and his tone was slightly sinister. Avoid the topic with clever words. Aomine Daiki was also taken away from the topic and quickly explained. That's only temporary. Sooner or later, I will become the main candidate. I'm looking forward to it. Fang Jilai snickered. Here comes the barbecue. The waiter came up with the barbecue. Everyone was talking and laughing while eating, and their relationship became closer and closer. Murasakibara, that's mine. You eat it from your own bowl. Aomine Daiki tightly clamped the barbecue on his plate to prevent Atsushi Murasakibara from taking it away. Hey, young boy, don't be so stingy. Let me eat. Atsushi Murasakibara violently grabbed the meat and stuffed the meat into his mouth. My barbecue. Spit it out. Spit it out. Aomine Daiki grabbed Atsushi Murasakibara's mouth and pulled it until Atsushi Murasakibara spit out his barbecued meat. Walk, walk, and you'll find the nest when you get to the mouth of the nest. Atsushi Murasakibara said inarticulately. Akashi Shijiro and Midorima Shintarō watched the two people fighting quietly, elegantly eating the barbecue on their plates. Fang Zai, your barbecue is so delicious. Atsushi Murasakibara suddenly stuck his head out and looked at the barbecue on Fang Jilai's plate. He didn't rob him. After all, it was Fang Jilai's treat, so he naturally had to respect his boss. Fang Jilai had black lines on his head and shouted speechlessly, Boss, please order some more barbecue. Okay, the boss replied. After ordering a few more plates of barbecue, Fang Jilai turned to Atsushi Murasakibara and said, Okay, it's enough for you now. Thank you, Fangzi. After hearing that there was still barbecue to be eaten, Atsushi Murasakibara stopped grabbing food and sat quietly at the table waiting for the food to be served. Satsuki Momoi looked at the 5 people enjoying themselves and felt slowly happy in her heart. She likes this atmosphere very much. It makes people feel comfortable. After everyone finished the big meal, they went back to their homes and searched for their own yards. Dad, I'm back, Fang Jilai said as he took off his shoes. My son is back. How was your day at school? Father Fang asked with a smile. The family that Fang Jilai traveled through time was very rich, but most of their assets were in the Dragon Kingdom and the Beautiful Kingdom. His assets in Japan can only be said to be decent, and he is currently settled in Japan because Fang's father came here to handle matters. Good. Fang Jilai told Fang's father what happened at school, and then went back to his room to lay waste. Father Fang looked at his son's back and nodded happily. My son has made new friends in Japan, and he doesn't behave alone every day. Since his son likes basketball, he must be a strong supporter, which is better than failing every day. A few days later, in the training ground of the arena, the army assembles, the assistant coach shouted. It won't be long before the junior high school league preliminaries. The coach will train you later. Alai, what kind of person do you think the coach will be? King Feng Dehui whispered to Fang Jilai. Oh yes, you haven't met the coach yet. Nijimura Zizu turned around and said. Suddenly, a hand patted King Feng Dehui's shoulder, and the owner of the hand said, Really? Then we need to give you a good introduction. My name is Shirogane Kozo. Please give me your advice, Aomine-san. King Feng Dehui was obviously confused by this hand. He was stunned and asked, You know me? Shirogane Jinzo laughed twice and said, Of course, I know all of you students. Fang Jilai looked at by Jin Gingzhou. In the original work, Shirogane Kozo is a very responsible coach who often observes everyone's performance on the second floor. To be honest, if Shirogane Kozo had not fallen ill in the original work, the Age of Miracles might not have been dispersed at all. After Shirogane Kozo fell ill, the assistant coach naturally became the new coach, although the teaching assistant also discovered problems within the Age of Miracles. He thought about how to solve it, but was undermined by the school's board of directors. The board of directors requires the Miracle Era to play no matter what happens, on the grounds that the heroes must be active on the court. This caused the 5 people in the Age of Miracles to darken faster and faster until they fell apart. Chapter 9 Haizaki Shogo, Captain, the coach looks pretty good like this. Aomine Daiki said a little thankfully. After hearing this, Hongtsuan Shouzao's expression became strange. and he reminded, "Don't be fooled by appearances." He had a panicked tone, as if he had remembered something bad. Fang Jilai knew what it was. It was a devil training plan created by Platinum Gung. The philosophy of Platinum Jingzhou is that if you can't die after practicing, keep practicing. Of course, he also implemented this strategy. Today, Aomine Daiki and others felt that life was truly worse than death. Fang Jilai obviously wanted to show off, but saw by Jinjing Zhao's serious eyes. He knew that if he failed today, he might be out the next day, so he trained hard with the team for a day. Originally, the difficulty of training was nothing to him, but Shirogane Kozo saw him training so easily. He immediately increased the intensity of his training, which made Fang Jilai feel a wave of love. Who? In the age of miracles, everyone was lying on the ground, breathing heavily. Is coached by genes so cruel? Aomine Daiki asked breathlessly. Hongsu and Xiao Zhao put his hands on his knees and replied with difficulty. Yes, it's always been like this. Fang Jilai stood there and walked slowly, trying to breathe as slowly as possible. Classmate Fang Jilai. Platinum Gungzhou walked up to Fang Jilai, stretched out his hand, and patted Fang Jilai on the shoulder. "I found your substitute for you. You two should get to know each other," he said as he pulled up a boy with white hair. "Introduce yourself." "It's really troublesome. My name is Haizaki Shogo." Haizaki Shogo said with an indifferent expression. His eyes kept looking at Fang Jilai. "Is this a kid stealing my starting spot?" "Coach, I don't accept it," he said to the coach. "Oh, why don't you accept it?" Platinum Gungzhou became interested and asked. "I don't think he can beat me." Haizaki Shogo looked disdainful. In his mind, Fang Jilai is just a small forward who can only pass the ball, and he is completely unqualified to be his substitute. "Oh, so you think you are better than me?" Fang Jilai squinted his eyes and looked at Haizaki Shogo expressionlessly. "I didn't succeed in showing off today, so I was drilled hard by Platinum Gungzhou. I was already in a bad mood, and Haizaki Shogo wanted to provoke me. Clay Bodhisattva has 3 points of fire energy, not to mention Fang Jilai. Fang Jilai is a bit casual and a bit arrogant, but that doesn't mean that just anyone can provoke him. Of course, I'm stronger than you, and several times stronger than you." Haizaki Shogo looked gloomy and said these words fiercely. Fang Jilai laughed twice and said, "Then let's fight one-on-one, 5 balls in a row." Haizaki Shogo did not agree. He made his own request. "Change your hair. Are you not confident in yourself?" Fang Jilai said excitedly. "TCH, it's a burst of fire. Was it so easy to get excited?" Fang Jilai didn't even expect that he tried to provoke him, but Haizaki Shogo took the initiative to enter his trap. His purpose is to get Haizaki Shogo to accept the continuous hair request. Only in this way can we give Haizaki Shogo a good military training and let him feel his love for him. "Alai, are you okay in your current state?" King Feng Dehoe said a little worriedly. Fang Jilai had just finished training, and his physical strength was not superior to begin with. And now he had to fight this person who looked very dangerous. How can people not worry about this? "It's okay, he can't beat me." Fang Jilai smiled and said confidently. Shirogane Jinzo watched this scene with great interest, and he was also looking forward to the duel between the two. He cleared one half of the court and allowed the two to duel. "You come and serve, otherwise you will have no chance." Fang Jilai casually threw the ball to Haizaki Shogo and said with disdain, "Since you look down on me, I'm gonna show you some color." Haizaki Shogo looked at Fang Jilai angrily. This was the first time he was looked down upon in this way. He replied, "Just wait for death." Fang Jilai replied casually, "I'm looking forward to it." The game officially started with Haizaki Shogo holding the ball. After the game started, Fang Jilai chose to post it. "Show me your weak side hand." Fang Jilai stepped on the 3-point line with his left foot and got stuck on the outside of Haizaki Shogo's knee, blocking his right offensive position. Only a large left side space is left for Haizaki Shogo. A simple defense with a weak side hand has changed in the eyes of others. In Haizaki Shogo's eyes, streaks of steel appeared under Fang Jilai's feet. The steel quickly stood up and blocked his right side, leaving only space on the left. His pupil shrank, and he looked at Fang Jilai with an ugly expression. "What kind of ability is it?" The right side is completely blocked. Everyone outside the venue was in commotion. Hey, have you seen it? What's going on with Alai's defense and that high steel wall? Aomine looked at this scene in surprise and exclaimed, Fang Jilai's defense is so strong. I want to have a duel with him more and more. Haizaki Shogo was thinking rapidly in his mind on the court. How to get there? The right side is blocked, so you can only go to the left. He rushed to the left suddenly, trying to break through Fang Jilai's defense. Fang Jilai saw Haizaki Shogo rushing straight towards his right hand. He stretched out his hand, and the ball was cut off. What? In Haizaki Shogo's eyes, as soon as he broke through to the left, a huge palm appeared in front of him and severely cut off his ball. Seeing the ball in Fang Jilai's hands, he looked ugly and prepared to defend and put down the ball as much as possible. He can now see that Fang Jilai is not just about passing the ball. He carefully observed Fang Jilai's movements, hoping to gain some face in defense. What a ball! As expected of Alai, he intercepted the ball in one go. Aomine Daiki watched this scene excitedly. It was as if he was the one playing on the court. Platinum Jinzo, who was watching from the sidelines, nodded in approval. Fang Jilai is a talent. If he is cultivated, his future achievements will be unimaginable. What I can do is give Fang Jilai the right guidance while he is growing up. People in the arena saw someone challenging him to a one-on-one challenge, and it was Fang Jilai, the main force of the first team. They all moved closer together to watch the duel between Fang Jilai and Haizaki Shogo. Classmate Fang is still so strong. He snatched the white-haired one in one fell swoop. Yes, that steel-like high wall makes my heart tremble just looking at it. Hey, wait a minute. Did Mr. Fang drop the ball? He didn't drop the ball. He gave it to that white-haired guy. It turns out that just now, after Fang Jilai got the ball, he did not attack, but chose to return the basketball to Haizaki Shogo. This operation not only confused passersby, but also made Aomine Daiki and others unable to be confused. Chapter 10, Selfless State. Why did Alai give the ball back? Aomine Daiki asked in surprise. Because of confidence. Akashi Sidro understood Fang Jilai's thoughts and said, Haizaki Shogo is simply not strong enough to defeat Fang Jilai, so Jilai did this. So that's it. King Feng Dahoe suddenly realized and looked at Fang Jilai on the court with excitement. Haizaki Shogo caught the ball and looked at Fang Jilai with a confused look on his face and asked, What do you mean? Fang Jilai had a relaxed expression on his face and said, I'll give you another chance. Don't say that I bullied you. Haizaki Shogo also understood Fang Jilai's thoughts at this time, that he simply looked down on him. A wave of anger rippled through his mind. You actually looked down on me. I'm going to make you pay the price. He started suddenly with the ball and broke through to the right very quickly. Upon seeing this, Fang Jilai immediately followed and blocked his attack route. But at this moment, Haizaki Shogo suddenly confronted Fang Jilai physically. Huh? You actually want to fight me physically? Why can't you think about it? Fang Jilai was still wondering why Haizaki Shogo would fight with him, but he was confused the next second. During the confrontation, Haizaki Shogo stretched out his elbow and swung it towards Fang Jilai's face. Play dirty. Fang Jilai was violently elbowed in the face by Haizaki Shogo. Blood spurted out and fell to the floor, and he himself fell to the ground. Alai, Fangzi, Fang Jilai, Jilai, Aomine Daiki, and others shouted, and then rushed into the field. Hey, is this malicious and hurtful? Yeah, those elbows flew into other people's faces. Is nothing going to happen? Stop it quickly. Among everyone, Atsushi Murasakibara was actually the fastest. He rushed directly to Haizaki Shogo and knocked him to the ground. Upon seeing this, Aomine Daiki quickly followed and waved his fists. It's okay, Jilai. Satsuki Momoi ran to Fang Jilai's side, gently lifted him up and asked. Akashi Sidro walked to Fang Jilai's side and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Fang Jilai was fine. He turned to look at Haizaki Shogo, who was being beaten, with a trace of anger in his eyes. On the other side, Aomine Daiki waved his fist and hit Haizaki Shogo in the face. Stop it! Haizaki Shogo tightly protected his face and begged for mercy. The other students rushed forward and pulled Aomine Daiki away. "Let me go and I'll beat him to death." King Fang Jilai struggled hard to break free. "Forget it, Aomine-san." Fang Jilai's voice came from behind. King Fang Jilai stopped struggling after hearing this and turned his head to look. Fang Jilai was not seriously injured, except for a crack at the corner of his eye. After expressing his gratitude to Satsuki Momoi and Haizaki Shogo, he stood up and stopped him. "Talk about the ball on the court, Aomine-san. Let me handle it myself." But, believe me, seeing Fang Jilai's insistence, Aomine Daiki stopped continuing. He just turned his head and glared at Haizaki Shogo fiercely and threatened, "If you let me see your unnecessary movements again, I will destroy you." Haizaki Shogo didn't respond, lying on the ground, panting alone. Fang Jilai slowly walked up to Haizaki Shogo. Some students thought that Fang Jilai was going to beat Haizaki Shogo and wanted to stop him. "I don't fight, I just play ball." He stated aloud that he was not the one to fight, and the student turned to look at Shirogane Jinzo, wanting to ask if he wanted to stop him. But Jin Gungzhou didn't answer. He asked Fang Jilai, "Classmate Fang Jilai, are your injuries okay?" Fang Jilai shook his head and said he was fine. Seeing this, Shirogane Jinzo nodded, indicating that there was no need to stop him. Fang Jilai slowly walked up to Haizaki Shogo and looked at him condescendingly. "Can I still continue to fight?" Haizaki Shogo looked at Fang Jilai resentfully. "Wasn't it just an elbow? As for being beaten so badly, since you still want to fight, I will help you." "Can fight? Then get up and serve." Fang Jilai said expressionlessly and threw the ball to Haizaki Shogo. Haizaki Shogo looked at the basketball in his hand with a gloomy face and thought viciously in his heart, "I must destroy you." He held the ball in both hands and rushed from the right again. But the next second, a white light flashed and the ball in his hand disappeared. "What?" Haizaki Shogo looked back with a surprised expression. I saw Fang Jilai at this moment, his whole body emitting a faint white light, his eyes also emitting a trace of white mist, and his left hand was holding the stolen basketball. "Did you see clearly? Why was the ball broken?" "No. Why is Fang Jilai still glowing with white light now?" "I don't know either. It's my first time seeing you too." There were commotions from the sidelines, discussing the changes that had happened to Fang Jilai. "What is going on? Why does Fang Jilai's body emit a white light?" King Fang Jilai looked at this scene with confusion. He had never seen anyone emit white light. "I don't know. Maybe we can ask the coach." Akashi Shogo didn't know what was going on. He turned around and asked the coach, "Coach, do you know what this is about?" Shirogane Jinzo looked at this scene in disbelief and murmured, "Nothing. No self? How is it possible? How is it possible? Why does the state of selflessness appear in basketball?" "That's right. Fang Jilai's state at this time is exactly the state of selflessness. This kind of state has only been seen by Shirogane Kozo in tennis, and he once asked for advice on how to enter a state of selflessness. What that person told Shirogane Kozo was that the state of selflessness is a state that can only be achieved by experienced players who have no distractions and no distracting thoughts. Generally, this state is only suitable for single-player sports because there are too many external factors in multiplayer sports. You must consider your teammates, the enemy's direction, and the enemy's next move. Therefore, it is almost impossible to enter a state of selflessness in multiplayer sports. Platinum Jinzo has never been seen in other sports, let alone sports like basketball. No self? Coach, what is no self? Akashi Shogo asked with a confused look on his face when he heard what Shirogane Kozo said. He has only been exposed to basketball since he was a child, and has not been exposed to sports other than basketball. He does not know much about other sports. Yes, coach, what's Fang Jilai's situation now? King Fang Jilai asked anxiously. He couldn't wait to know what Fang Jilai's situation was now. Midorima Shintarō followed everyone silently, looking at Fang Jilai in the stadium with blazing eyes. Jin Gungzhou was forced to come to his senses by everyone. After listening to everyone's questions, he answered them. The state of selflessness is an incredible state. I have only seen this state among professional tennis players. Chapter 11 Zone Professional Tennis Player? Aomine Daiki and Akashi Shogo asked with puzzled faces. That's right, a professional tennis player. Shirogane Kozo nodded and continued. This state must be entered with a clear mind and no distracting thoughts. People who enter the selfless state will have greatly improved abilities and can imitate any skills or actions they have seen before. So powerful? Doesn't that mean Fang Jilai is invincible now? King Feng Dehui said in surprise. If the state of selflessness is so outrageous, then how can I beat Fang Jilai in a one-on-one match in the future? Aomine Daiki's focus is on how powerful the blessing of the selfless state is. But Akashi Shijiro is different. His focus is on the professional tennis players in Shirogane Kostom. Coach, since you said that you have only seen the state of selflessness in professional tennis players, then explain it. Basketball players currently don't have the ability to enter a state of selflessness. Shirogane Kozo was stunned. He didn't expect Akashi Shijiro's attention to be here. He nodded and said, I have indeed never seen a basketball player enter a state of selflessness. Why, coach, is it difficult to enter the selfless state? Midorima Shintarō asked. The coach has never seen the selfless state in basketball players, which means that it is difficult to enter the selfless state or even impossible to enter. So how did Fang Jilai enter? It's not difficult for tennis players, but it's as difficult as climbing to the sky for basketball players. Shirogane Jinzo said slowly. Why, coach? Nijimura Shizo joined the conversation and asked. I just said that the state of selflessness must be without distractions, without distracting thoughts, and without being affected by the outside world. In tennis, players only need to care about the ball hit by the opponent, so they can easily enter a state of concentration. But basketball players are different. They not only have to care about the position of their teammates, but also the direction of their teammates. We also need to observe the opponent's position and the opponent's next move. In this state, it is difficult for players to be focused and free from distractions. Platinum Gungzhou patiently explained to everyone. Then, coach, if there are no teammates during a duel, can it be easy to enter a state of selflessness? Aomine Daiki spoke his mind. After all, Fang Jilai is currently in a selfless state in a duel. Theoretically, it is like this, but I have never seen it before. Today is also the first time I've seen a basketball player enter a selfless state. He is still a junior high school student. Shirogane Jinzo said with a praising tone. Coach, can we also enter a state of selflessness? Akashi Shijiro asked the coach. For him, who has always wanted to be first in everything since he was a child, it is very uncomfortable to be suppressed in the field of basketball where he is good at. Since Fang Jilai can enter a state of selflessness, he cannot fall behind. Yes, coach, how should we enter the selfless state? Aomine Daiki asked. If you can't enter the selfless state, how will you fight against the masters and Fang Jilai in the future? Haha, why are you always obsessed with the selfless state? Basically, no basketball player will choose to enter the selfless state. As soon as Jin Gungzhou said this, everyone became confused. What do you mean, coach? Why do no basketball players choose to enter the selfless state? Isn't the selfless state very powerful? Hongsu and Xiaozhao was the first to raise doubts. The coach just talked about the selfless state so powerfully, but why did he later say that almost no basketball players would choose to enter the selfless state? Isn't this inconsistent? Nijimura Shizo thought for a long time, but couldn't figure out the reason. Not only him, Akashi Shijiro and others also didn't understand the reason. Haha, let me tell you why. Shirogane Jinzo laughed twice and said to everyone, there are two reasons. The first reason is what I just mentioned. It is difficult for basketball players to enter the selfless state. The second reason is because basketball players have their own explosive state, which is called a zone. Zone. Everyone was confused. Midorima Shintarō was the first to express doubts. Coach, what is a zone? Now that you know too much is not good, I will briefly mention 2 points. It is originally impossible for athletes to perform 100% of their strength in the game. Even first-class players who are very focused can only perform 80% at most. But zone will make the impossible 100% possible. The strength of those who open zone will increase several times. The growth rate of zone is far from comparable to that of the selfless state. After Shirogane Jinzo's explanation, everyone was surprised. Unexpectedly, the selfless state that made everyone feel so powerful was not as good as the bonus of zone. Coach, how do I enter the zone? King Feng Dahui asked excitedly. Of course he wanted to obtain such a powerful ability. Less than 1% of people can open the zone, and very few people can open it. But don't be discouraged. With your talents, as long as you train them, you will all be able to enter the zone state in the near future. Bai Jingyi made a chicken soup for the soul and fed it to everyone, and everyone instantly felt motivated. They all told Shirogane Kozo that they would stay and practice more after training. Shirogane Jinzo watched this scene happily. Looking at Aomine Daiki and others in front of him, he seemed to have imagined what they would look like in the future. He nodded happily and swore secretly in his heart, I must pave the way for these geniuses and make some contribution to their future careers. Who? How is that possible? How can you be so strong? Haizaki Shogo was breathing heavily. He felt pain all over his body, and his bones were about to fall apart. It's amazing. The score is already 0-4. The white-haired guy is so miserable. It hurts just looking at him. It goes without saying that he himself deserves to be taught such a dirty trick. I have to say, Fang Jilai is so good. He scored 4 points in a row just by using his body. Yeah, it's amazing. While King Feng Dahui and others were discussing, Fang Jilai had already scored 4 points in a row. After being hit with a vicious elbow by Haizaki Shogo, he looked calm on the surface, but in fact there was a trace of anger burning in his heart. He stood up and made up his mind to teach Haizaki Shogo a lesson. When defending, he concentrated and intercepted Haizaki Shogo's ball. When it was his turn to attack, he no longer relied on speed and fancy luck to win. Instead, he used his body to dig in bit by bit. Haizaki Shogo was firstly because he also had anger in his heart, and secondly, because he had never met a player who was always aggressive. In their junior high school league, there is no 5-second rule. Fang Jilai took advantage of this and gave Haizaki Shogo a hard lesson with a back slap. Chapter 12, I will train you personally. 1 goal left, Haizaki-san. Fang Jilai gently turned the basketball with his fingers and said calmly, with this strength, I don't know how you dare to speak provocatively. Haizaki Shogo listened to Fang Jilai's ridicule, and his heart burned with anger. He had never suffered such humiliation since he was a child, and now he wanted to rush up and beat Fang Jilai directly. But when he saw Aomine Daiki and Atsushi Murasakibara, who had been eyeing him next to him, he suppressed the anger in his heart and prepared to settle the score after school. He clenched his fists, did not reply, and took a defensive posture. He knew that he must have lost. Instead of being humiliated here, it would be better to end the game as soon as possible and wait until school was over to block Fang Jilai. Fang Jilai saw that Haizaki Shogo did not reply, but took a defensive posture. He continued to stimulate with words. With this ball, I will break through from your right. After that, Fang Jilai suddenly rushed from the left. It looked like a breakthrough from the left, but Fang Jilai actually made a fake move. He used a big change of direction from left to right to break through. Passed through Haizaki Shogo's defense in an instant. Huh? Not defensive? Fang Jilai saw that Haizaki Shogo did not move, but stood there and looked at him with resentful eyes. He suddenly understood something in his mind. This Haizaki Shogo wants to block me after school, so let's see who is the best. Thinking of this, Fang Jilai had no interest in continuing the game. He gently picked up the basket and sent the basketball into the basket. The score is 5-0. There is no suspense. Fang Jilai has a 0 goal against Haizaki Shogo. As expected, it's a clean sheet, and it has to be classmate Fang Jilai. It's amazing. Yes, I feel that even Captain Nijimura may not be able to win easily. Fang Jilai is so strong. I can already imagine our Teikō dominating the middle school basketball league. People outside the court were not too surprised when they saw Fang Jilai sealing Haizaki Shogo. After all, Fang Jilai had beaten all the main players of Teikō before. Alai, you are so awesome. King Feng Dahui ran to Fang Jilai, hooked his hand around Fang Jilai's neck and laughed. Alai, when you entered that selfless state, what did your body feel like? How did you enter the state of selflessness? Can you teach me? King Feng Dahue asked tirelessly. Midorima Shintarō didn't make any movement on the surface, but actually his ears were perked up, wanting to hear Katarai's answer. Student Jilai has just finished playing the game, so please stop asking questions like this. Satsuki Momoi stood up and said. His tone was scolding, but in his heart he felt that this scene was very warm. She likes this atmosphere very much, where everyone is united and strives for a common goal. Yes, King Feng-san, let Fang-san take a break first, Akashi Sidro said gently. There were many things in his mind that he wanted to ask, but he held back. After all, Fang Jilai had just finished a game and really needed a rest. Atsushi Murasakibara was eating the potato chips that Fang Jilai bought for him without saying anything. For him, having something to eat was enough. It's okay, Satsuki-kun. Wouldn't it be too embarrassing to use all your strength to deal with Nakoan like this? Fang Jilai smiled softly and signaled to Satsuki that there was no need to say that to King Feng. But, Aomine-san, what did you mean when you just said that I entered a state of selflessness? He asked with some confusion. When did I enter the state of selflessness? Why didn't I know it? Bai Jin Gingzhou walked out from behind the crowd and looked at Fang Jilai with burning eyes. He knew that if nothing unexpected happened, Fang Jilai would definitely become a basketball superstar in the future. Now Fang Jilai's strength has far exceeded that of his peers. Whether it is shooting accuracy, shooting speed, organizational skills, etc., he is very good. Now, there is a selfless state that basketball players cannot have. With these abilities alone, it is not comparable to that of his peers. Even King Feng Dahue and others, who are rare in 10 years, can't compare with Fang Jilai. His talent is so good that even Platinum Jinzo finds it incredible. He walked up to Fang Jilai and said, "Classmate Jilai, don't you even know that you have entered a state of selflessness?" Fang Jilai was confused when asked, when did he enter a state of selflessness? After hearing Shirogane Jinzo's explanation, he was stunned. He always thought that only Aomine Daiki and others could figure out the second best, but he didn't expect that even his own coach could figure out a big drama. At that time, I just concentrated on preventing Haizaki Shogo from maliciously elbowing me again. As a result, in their eyes, it becomes a selfless state with no distractions and no distracting thoughts. If that's the case, wouldn't it be a random killing if he went to the tennis court next door? No, if you go to the tennis court next door, you might die as soon as the ball comes over. Fang Jilai looked at Platinum Gungzhou speechlessly. His coach was so confused. What can he do? Just pamper him. He pretended to be surprised and said in surprise, "It turns out that it is a state of selflessness. I asked why I feel that my strength has become so much stronger." Shirogane Jinzo nodded with relief, a little proud in his heart. He then thought, since Fang Jilai has such a high talent, he must train him well and not let him be lazy anymore. At the same time, we must protect Fang Jilai and prevent him from being harmed. Many professional players have to give up the sport of basketball due to injuries. He must not let injuries ruin Fang Jilai's basketball career. After thinking about it, Shirogane Jinzo said seriously, "Classmate Jilai, if you have such a high talent, you can't let it go to waste. From now on, you will be trained by me personally every day. At the same time, I want you to promise me a condition. This is to protect you." Fang Jilai looked at by Jin Gungzhou in confusion. "Will you personally train me every day from now on? But the problem is the system I got is to become stronger when it is bad. Although the system doesn't say much, I can increase my strength by playing badly. You personally train me and supervise me. How can I fail?" Fang Jilai looked at by Jin Gungzhou with tears in his eyes and asked, "Coach, actually I don't need you to train yourself. I could just practice by myself. I won't bother you to worry about it." "That's not possible. Your talent must not be wasted," Shirogane Jinzo said with a serious face. "Yes, Alai, with your high talent and the training from the coach, won't you be even more powerful in the future?" Aomine Daiki interrupted and said, "I have decided that from now on I will train with you, Alai, and we will train with the coach together until I defeat you." After saying that, Aomine Daiki stretched out his hand. "Add me one." Midorima Shintarō also stretched out his hand and placed it on Aomine Daiki's hand. Chapter 13, Do you know I'm following you? Since you all practice extra, I can't fall behind, Akashi Shijiro said gently, and then put his hand on Midorima Shintarō. After Aomine Daiki saw that Akashi Shijiro and Midorima Shintarō were both training with him, he turned to look at Atsushi Murasakibara, who was eating potato chips with a happy face. But training is very troublesome. Atsushi Murasakibara was eating potato chips and looking at everyone's eyes. With a reluctant expression on his face, he put his hand on Akashi Shijiro's hand and said, "Just think of it as accompanying Fang Lai." Nijimura Zu stood aside and looked at everyone with complicated eyes. He wanted to extend his hand, but his father's condition is getting worse and worse, and he doesn't know if he can hold on. Hongtsun Bai Jinjingzhou knew the difficulties of Hongtsun Shiozao, and he said with a firm expression, "Follow your own will, and no one will blame you." As soon as he said this, Nijimura Shuzo gritted his teeth, as if he had made some determination, and he stretched out his hand and put it on Atsushi Murasakibara's hand. Satsuki Momoi looked at the scene with a sweet smile, and she remembered the beautiful scene deeply in her memory. She felt the happy mood and friendly atmosphere of everyone, which strengthened her determination to join the basketball club and become a consultant for the team. She not only wants to protect this atmosphere, but also joins everyone. With fiery eyes, everyone looked at Fang Jilai, who had not yet stretched out his hand. Fang Jilai looked at everyone with tears in his eyes. "Brothers, you made a decision without asking me for my opinion. What are your intentions? You are afraid that I will become more powerful, right? I become stronger by showing off, not by training. If you want to practice more, you should practice more. Why did you bring me along? If you practice more and more, you will blossom and take off immediately. I practice more, but if I practice too much, it would wither away. We are different." He complained speechlessly in his heart. Fang Jilai sighed slightly when he saw the kind eyes of Shirogane Genzo and the expectant eyes of Aomine Daiki and others. Training is a bit tiring. Fang Jilai is a lazy person. Apart from playing games, he hardly wants to do anything else at other times. Lai-san. Satsuki Momoi spoke slowly. Fang Jilai turned his head when he heard the sound, and when he saw the same expectant look in Satsuki Momoi's eyes, he no longer hesitated. "I would risk my life to accompany this beauty. At worst, I would pretend to be sick and run away and be lazy during training." A master in the past life said, "Don't avoid difficulties. Remember that there are always more methods than difficulties." After thinking about this, Fang Jilai also stretched out his hand and put on Hongtsun Shiozao's hand. King Feng Dehui and others saw Fang Jilai put his hand on it, and they all showed satisfied smiles. They all shouted, "Come on!" Shirogane Genzo looked at this scene with a pleased expression. "These are all future basketball superstars. I must guide them correctly on their growth path so that they can move towards the future correctly." After everyone finished shouting, they found Bai Jinjingzhou and asked for more training, while King Feng Dehui grabbed Fang Jilai and asked questions. Fang Jilai also patiently wrote the story. "Alai, how did you enter the state of selflessness?" "I was thinking about going to eat after playing hard, and then I would become selfless." After Atsushi Murasakibara heard this, his lazy expression became slightly serious, and he secretly thought that he would try it in the future. "Then Alai, how did you achieve such a fast shooting speed?" "It's very simple. Just throw it away without thinking about anything." Midorima Shintarō listened quietly, wondering whether he should try the throwing action later. Also thinking was Aomine Daiki. He thought to himself, "Alai said to just throw. Would it be better for me to do the same as him and just throw without shooting?" The more Aomine Daiki thought about it, the more reliable it seemed to him, and he secretly decided that he must try the just throw shooting method in the future. Fang Jilai never dreamed that the random shot was his own instigation. After Fang Jilai answered the question, he turned around and asked Bai Jinjingzhou, "Coach, what is it that you want me to promise you?" Platinum Gungzhou slowly spoke. "I hope you can't fight Aomine-san and the others with all your strength." Fang Jilai was stunned. Isn't this request what Platinum Gungzhou requested from King Feng Dehui and the others later? Why are you so demanding of yourself in the first year of junior high school? Fang Jilai was indeed confused, but he still nodded and agreed to Bai Jin Gengzhao's request. Bai Jin Gengzhao nodded happily, secretly thinking that Fang Jilai was very sensible. After Fang Jilai agreed to the request, King Feng Dehui found Fang Jilai again and asked, Alai, how did you become so powerful? It's very simple. Run 10,000 meters, do 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and 1,000 squats every day. It will come naturally. King Feng Dehui secretly remembered it and decided in his heart that he must do these things every day in the future. Also memorizing notes were Shintaro, Midorima, and Seijiro Akashi. Alai, how did you make that weird pass? Aomine Daiki continued to ask. On the side, Akashi Seijiro secretly gave Aomine Daiki a thumbs up. Aomine-san is really our mouthpiece. It's very simple. Just pass the ball to the small hole every day. If you pass it too much, you will get better. Fang Jilai's words were firmly remembered by Akashi Seijiro, and he decided to practice small hole passing every day in the future. Alai, how do you achieve that skill of seeing through everything? It's very simple. Just stare at the birds in the sky every day and look more often. How do you see through them? Play more chess, and you will naturally be able to grasp the overall situation. What Fang Jilai said later was written down in Akashi Seijiro's notebook, and he decided that he would also follow the notebook to train in the future. Time passed quickly, and everyone was preparing to go home. Classmate Jilai, shall we go home together? Yes, Alai. Didn't your family drop by with us? We went back together. Satsuki Momoi and Aomine Daiki stood at the door, wanting Fang Jilai to go home with them. Fang Jilai looked at the two people waiting for him. He shook his head and said, I still have something to do, so you should go back first. After hearing this, the two stopped trying to dissuade him and turned around to go home. After making sure that the two of them had left, Fang Jilai turned around and walked outside. Behind him, Haizaki Shogo looked at Fang Jilai's back with a gloomy face, raised his legs, and followed him. Fang Jilai intentionally or unintentionally led Haizaki Shogo to a place with few people. When he reached a small forest, he turned his head to make sure there was no one else around and said, Come out. I've been with you for a long time, Haizaki-san. You know I'm following you? Haizaki Shogo walked out of the grass with a surprised look on his face. Chapter 14, I would rather receive 10 punches than an elbow. He didn't understand why he led him to a less crowded place, since he knew he was following him. Of course I do. Fang Jilai nodded and confirmed. Haizaki Shogo was very confident in his fighting skills. He smiled sinisterly and said, Now that you know it, do you still dare to go to a place with few people? Fang Jilai smiled and said gently, Isn't it because I'm afraid that it won't be good if there are too many people? I knew I was going to be beaten, so I walked to a place with fewer people to avoid being embarrassed. Right? Haizaki Shogo suddenly felt that Fang Jilai was very funny. He even cared about face even if he was beaten, but he was really a pretender. Haizaki Shogo circled Fang Jilai twice with a mocking expression and made a tut-tis sound. Fang Jilai helplessly supported his forehead with one hand, thinking that a fight would be too much trouble. But Fang Jilai didn't take action. He was waiting for Haizaki Shogo to take action first, so that he could be justified. In order to get home quickly, Fang Jilai said angrily, Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. Haizaki Shogo's expression changed, and he suddenly rushed towards Fang Jilai, raised his fist, and hit Fang Jilai on the temple. Haizaki Shogo's movements were very fast, almost completed in an instant. Seeing that Fang Jilai had not responded at all, Haizaki Shogo began to feel excited. But in Fang Jilai's eyes, his movements seemed to have slowed down several times. Fang Jilai squatted down slightly and avoided Haizaki Shogo's punch. Haizaki Shogo's excited expression suddenly changed, turning into a puzzled expression. He subconsciously glanced below him and saw that Fang Jilai had already started to punch, and he secretly thought something bad. Haizaki Shogo wanted to avoid the punch, but it was too late. Fang Jilai punched Haizaki Shogo directly in the stomach. Just one punch made Haizaki Shogo feel like he was going to vomit out the meal he had eaten at night. Fang Jilai did not stop after the fight. When Haizaki Shogo was arching his body, Fang Jilai violently elbowed Haizaki Shogo in the face and said at the same time, "I will return this elbow to you. I would rather receive 10 punches than one elbow." This sentence is no joke. Fang Jilai's elbow directly knocked Haizaki Shogo unconscious on the spot, lying on the ground unconscious. Fang Jilai was shocked and secretly wondered if he had used too much force. He squatted down, pinched Haizaki Shogo's middle part, and murmured, "Don't die. Don't die. I'm holding back my strength." Fang Jilai was muttering in his mouth and thinking doubtfully in his heart. He obviously had withdrawn his strength, but who knew that Haizaki Shogo was so inexperienced? After holding Rinjong for a few minutes, Haizaki Shogo coughed violently, and Fang Jilai breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay if he's not beaten to death. It's okay if he's not beaten to death. Fang Jilai stood up and saw that Haizaki Shogo had opened his eyes. He said threateningly, "I called an ambulance for you. If you do this next time, it won't be as simple as lying on the ground." Haizaki Shogo looked at Fang Jilai with horrified eyes and nodded with difficulty. No wonder Haizaki Shogo gave in. He really felt like he had met the king of hell just now. Fang Jilai's elbow made Haizaki Shogo feel as if he had already left. Haizaki Shogo secretly swore that he would never experience that feeling again. After seeing Haizaki Shogo nod, Fang Jilai turned around and left, heading towards his home. The next day, Fang Jilai tiptoed to the arena. He lay at the entrance of the arena and looked around, as if to make sure someone was there. "Jilai-san." A voice came from behind Fang Jilai. Fang Jilai was startled by the sound and turned around suddenly. After seeing Satsuki Momoi behind him, he breathed a sigh of relief, pulled Satsuki Momoi aside, and whispered, "Satsuki-kun, where is the coach? Have you seen where the coach is?" Satsuki Momoi didn't answer Fang Jilai's question immediately. She stared blankly at Fang Jilai holding her hand, her cheeks turning slightly red. Fang Jilai didn't notice this scene because he was looking around to see where Coach Platinum was. Not hearing Satsuki Momoi's answer, he felt a little anxious and continued to ask, "Satsuki-san, do you know where the coach is?" "Satsuki-san, Satsuki-san." Fang Jilai called out to Satsuki-san several times before Satsuki Momoi reacted. She realized that she was being rude and quickly replied, "Oh, classmate Jilai, you are late. The coach is angry now. He is waiting for you in the locker room." After learning the position of the coach, Fang Jilai happily shook Satsuki Momoi's hand and thanked her. "Thank you, Satsuki-san." Satsuki Momoi felt the warmth coming from her hands. She lowered her head in embarrassment and whispered, "You're welcome." Originally, Satsuki Momoi was not going to tell Fang Jilai where the coach was. Firstly, the coach was very angry, and secondly, because Satsuki Momoi wanted Fang Jilai to be punished so that Fang Jilai could train well in the future. But after Fang Jilai held her hand, all these thoughts were forgotten by her. In fact, it's not the fault of Fang Jilai being late. Fang Jilai originally wanted to catch a fish and was going to get stuck in the dormitory. Who knew that he would be tricked by his classmates? Because of Fang Jilai's character, he quickly got along with everyone in the class. He often joked with everyone, causing the classmates in the class to get used to this way of getting along with each other. He asked his desk mate when school was over, and the question was what time it was. The club started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Fang Jilai's desk mate didn't know that Fang Jilai was going to join the club, so he jokingly said 3:50. The most important thing is that Fang Jilai believed his desk mate's joke. So he lay down on the table and continued to sleep. After sleeping for a few minutes, my desk mate asked curiously, "Jilai-san, are you going to do something at 4 o'clock?" Fang Jilai responded vaguely, "Yes." My desk mate knew that he might have done something bad, so he quickly said, "Classmate Jilai, it's actually past 4 o'clock now." After hearing this, Fang Jilai lost all sleep. He stood up suddenly, and his tone became louder. "True or false?" My desk mate rubbed his head in embarrassment and said, "Really?" Fang Jilai said without tears, "Thank you, you are so kind." Then Fang Jilai picked up a school bag and rushed out of the door. Then the scene just happened. After learning that the coach was in the locker room and that he was indeed late and was discovered by the coach, he simply stopped pretending. He swaggered into the locker room and saw Shirogane Kozo sitting on a chair and glaring at him. Fang Jilai chuckled, ran behind by Jin Gengzhou to massage his shoulders, and said enthusiastically, "Coach, why are you here?" Shirogane Genzo obviously didn't like this, and he spat out a harsh word. Chapter 15 Love is so magical. Double your training volume today after saying that. By Jinjinzo stopped staying, got up, and walked outside. "No, coach, I have a reason, coach." Fang Jilai was about to cry, but wanted to stop by Jinjinzeo, but it was of no use. Platinum Gungzhou doesn't care whether Fang Jilai has a reason or not, and no matter what Fang Jilai says, Platinum Gungzhou has no intention of giving in. Seeing that Bai Jin Gungzhou had no chance of explaining, Fang Jilai had no choice but to accept the punishment obediently. So you can see that everyone else is playing games, but only Fang Jilai is training hard. Fang Jilai also told Platinum Gungzhou that his strength in the game would be strengthened faster, but Platinum Gungzhou didn't believe Fang Jilai's lies at all and strongly demanded that he must train to complete the task indicators. After the training, everyone else went home from school. "Let's go, Alai." When King Feng Due saw Fang Jilai lying limply on the ground, he vowed in his heart that he would never offend Coach Platinum. Although Aomine Daiki also wanted to train well, if he followed Fang Jilai's training intensity, he would have to be in the gym on the spot. Satsuki Momoi slowly walked over and wiped Fang Jilai's sweat with a handkerchief. After wiping the sweat, he unscrewed the cap of the mineral water bottle and handed it to Fang Jilai. "Jilai-san, water." Fang Jilai sat up with difficulty, took the water from Satsuki Momoi's hand, and drank it in big gulps. King Feng Dehue complained at this time. "Coach Platinum is really cruel. The amount of training is too much." Fang Jilai was no longer in the mood to complain and kept drinking mineral water. King Feng Dahue looked at Fang Jilai's condition and knew that Fang Jilai would not be able to recover for a while. So he took off his school bag and practiced more on the court. Satsuki Momoi sat next to Fang Jilai and quietly rested with Fang Jilai. While Fang Jilai regained his strength, he watched Aomine Daihue shoot. King Feng Dahue always remembered what Fang Jilai said before, and he also wanted to try to see if he could throw it. Thinking of this, he threw the basketball casually. File brush, basketball rebound shot. Aomine Daihue looked surprised. He looked at his shooting hand. He just felt that the shot just made him feel very comfortable, as if he should shoot like this. Excitement burst out in his heart, and he couldn't wait to test the shot he just made again. Aomine Daiki quickly ran to the basket, picked up the basketball, stepped back to the free throw line, and threw the basketball casually again. It's a pity that this ball was not scored. But Aomine Daiki's expression was not one of regret, but excitement. He found a way to become stronger, and he felt that this kind of amorphous shooting was a shooting that was specifically suitable for him. He had already decided in his mind that he must practice shooting with no fixed style. He took action, kept picking up the ball and throwing the ball. Keep repeating this action, and every shot is like throwing. There's no gesture at all. Fang Jilai, who was sitting on the sidelines, was a little confused. "Brother, you started to have no fixed style in the first year of junior high school? I came to this world to enjoy, not to trick you. While others are still buds, you blossom." Fang Jilai himself didn't expect that King Feng Dahue, who was in his first year of junior high school, would start trying random shots with a hint of accuracy. What Fang Jilai didn't expect was that King Feng Dahue didn't have this idea at first. It was Fang Jilai's perfunctory words yesterday afternoon that made King Feng Dahue burst out with this idea. Satsuki Momoi said nothing, with a sweet smile on her face as she watched what happened. Fang Jilai had almost rested. He stood up and said, "Ada, I'm home. I originally thought that Aomine Daiki would follow the two of them home, but I didn't expect that Aomine Daiki would refuse. You guys go ahead, I'll practice some more." Fang Jilai looked at the excited King Feng Dahue. He knew that now was the time for King Feng Dahue to find the feeling, if he hadn't been so tired today that he couldn't survive. He stayed behind to practice with Aomine Daiki. But Fang Jilai was really tired from training today. He just wanted to go home, take a shower, and have a good sleep. So he did not continue to wait for King Feng Dahui. According to Aomine Daiki's current momentum, he will definitely have to practice until very late before going home. So he said no more, turned around, and prepared to leave. Satsuki Momoi hesitated back and forth between Aomine Daiki and Fang Jilai. But after a while, she followed Fang Jilai's footsteps. Before leaving, she turned back and said, "Ada, I'm going home with classmate Jilai first." Aomine Daiki was training vigorously, and he replied perfunctorily, "Okay, you can go back first." After that, he continued to practice basketball. Fang Jilai and Satsuki Momoi were walking on the roadside. Fang Jilai was in front, and Satsuki Momoi followed Fang Jilai. The weather was very hot, and almost everyone on the road had an ice cream in their hand. Satsuki Momoi looked at them with a hint of envy, but Fang Jilai in front suddenly stopped. Satsuki Momoi was always focused on the ice cream of passers-by, and did not notice that Fang Jilai in front had stopped. She bumped into Fang Jilai's back. "Ouch!" she shouted softly, and found that Fang Jilai did not continue walking. She asked, "What's wrong?" "Classmate Jilai." Fang Jilai shook his head and said, "It's okay, it's just a little hot. I'm going to buy some ice cream. Just wait for me." After saying that, I walked into the nearby convenience store alone to buy ice cream. Satsuki Momoi stood there blankly. She didn't know whether she should go in for a moment. Just when she was hesitating, Fang Jilai had already walked out of the convenience store. She had some regrets, regretting why she didn't follow in. If she had followed in, she could have eaten the sorbet. Because Aomine Daiki grew up with her, they both buy their own things. So there was no thought in her mind that anyone else would buy things for her. Satsuki Momoi was ready to watch Fang Jilai eat sorbet. But suddenly a hand stretched out. It was Fang Jilai's hand, holding an unsealed ice cream. Fang Jilai handed the ice cream to Satsuki Momoi and said gently, "No, your sorbet." Satsuki Momoi watched this scene leisurely, frozen in place. She looked at the sorbet handed over by Fang Jilai and was a little at a loss. She didn't know whether she should accept the sorbet from Fang Jilai or how she should accept the ice cream from Fang Jilai. This was an emotion she had never experienced before, and at the same time, she had a different emotion in her heart. This emotion has existed before, but it was only a little bit at that time. Only at this moment, this emotion exploded, filling Satsuki Momoi's heart with this emotion. Sometimes love just comes so magically. Chapter 16 haunted a few days later. Fang Jilai and others practiced in the gym very late, and he and Aomine Daiki were left to clean up. "Ada, Jilai Jun, let me tell you, the basketball gym is haunted in the middle of the night." Satsuki Momoi found Fang Jilai and Aomine Daiki at night with solemn expressions. "Really?" Fang Jilai knew it, but pretended to be in disbelief. "It looks like Kuroko is about to appear." Kuroko is Teik's phantom sixth person, relying on its own weak sense of existence. It can pass various incredible balls. Don't forget, the name of this drama starts with Kuroko. It's true. After practice in the gymnasium, where the three armed forces are located, the gymnasium is obviously empty, but the sound of playing can be heard. Satsuki Momoi said with a serious face. Aomine Daiki's face turned dark, and he looked at Satsuki Momoi blankly. Obviously, he didn't believe this statement and said, "It's so stupid." After saying that, he turned around and left. "Wait a minute, Oda, Aomine-san." Satsuki Momoi tried her best to call out Aomine Daiki, but Aomine Daiki had no intention of stopping. Aomine Daiki only thinks Satsuki Momoi is childish. Really? How can there be a monster who can play basketball? If so, I would like to have one-on-one with him, he said as he spun the ball and walked towards the basketball court. "Jilai, look at him. He doesn't believe me at all." Satsuki Momoi looked at Fang Jilai with an aggrieved expression. Ever since that popsicle a few days ago, Satsuki Momoi was very attached to Fang Jilai. Fang Jilai hated it the most when a girl looked at him with such an expression, so he quickly comforted him. "I believe you. Since the Tri-Service Stadium is haunted, let's go find out whether it's a ghost or a human being. Little Kuroko, here I come." Shall we go?" I'm a little scared. Satsuki Momoi said fearfully. She is indeed more afraid of ghosts. And she only said this with a hint of gossip. But now Fang Jilai said that he would take her there, which made her a little scared. Don't be afraid. I will protect you. Fang Jilai said gently with a faint smile. Protect me? Satsuki Momoi was stunned in place. This was the first time someone said they wanted to protect her. At this moment, she suddenly felt like a deer was bumping into her heart. Her face turned slightly red, and she lowered her head shyly. Momoi-san, Momoi-san. Fang Jilai looked at Satsuki Momoi, who was suddenly in a daze. He stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes. Seeing the hand waving in front of his eyes, Satsuki Momoi quickly came back to his senses. She lowered her head and said with a hint of shyness, Well, let's go together. Good. Seeing Satsuki Momoi agree, Fang Jilai took her little hand and walked to the basketball gym. Satsuki Momoi suddenly felt his hand being held by someone. She raised her head and saw that Fang Jilai was holding her hand and leading her forward. She didn't resist and let Fang Jilai lead her forward, feeling very happy. She even wanted Fang Jilai to run slower and hold her hand for a while longer. Aomine Daiki's screams were heard fiercely. After Fang Jilai heard the scream, he let go of Satsuki Momoi's hand and quickly ran towards the arena. He had to witness the famous scene. Satsuki Momoi felt the warmth disappear from her hands. She looked up and saw Fang Jilai running a few meters away. The inexplicable emotion in his heart instantly turned into anger. She stamped her foot angrily. Damada, he actually ruined my good deeds. Anger comes and goes quickly. After Satsuki Momoi was angry for a while, she immediately followed him because she also heard the scream, Aomine Daiki's scream. It turns out that just now, Aomine Daiki went to the basketball stadium alone. Hearing the sound of basketball coming from the arena, he didn't think much, pushed the door open and walked into the basketball arena, saying hello. However, when he said this, not only did no one respond to him, but even the sound of basketball disappeared. Hey, is it true? Is it really a monster playing basketball? No, someone must have been practicing until just now. It's just over now, but I always feel that there is still a sound a second before I open the door. Aomine Daiki looked at the empty arena. There was no one, no basketball, nothing. His body instantly broke out in cold sweat. He cautiously took a few steps back outside the arena, as if he wanted to avoid being noticed by the monster. Under the premise, escape from the arena. A voice came out in the empty basketball hall, and Aomine Daiki felt as if he had seen a ghost when he heard the voice. He immediately squatted on the ground in fear, covered his ears with both hands, cold sweat kept falling from his head like raindrops, and muttered quickly, Namo Amitba, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, I will never bring adult magazines to school again. I won't doze off in class anymore. The evil spirit has gone away. The evil spirit has gone away. Fang Jilai, who had just ran over from the door, heard King Feng Dahui in the venue still shaking out his dirty information. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he took out his mobile phone and clicked on the recording. King Feng, you have fallen in my hands, he. I'm going to keep this recording for the rest of my life, and I'm waiting for you to smash it. In the arena, King Feng Dahui was still talking about his dirty information, and a voice interrupted him. Hello. King Feng Dahui turned around and saw no monsters or monsters. He is a boy with blue hair, slightly taller, and a dull expression. It's not a ghost. Aomine Daiki stood up and looked at Kuroko Tetsuya. Others are standing in front of you, and you still treat them as ghosts? Fang Jilai walked into the arena and said with an evil smile on his face, Alai, why are you here? King Feng Dahui looked stunned and looked at Fang Jilai, who walked in and asked. This guy couldn't have heard all the secrets I just told. If not, he had to find out. Alai, when did you come? Me? I just arrived. Fang Jilai responded. Just arrived? You probably haven't heard my dirty information, so the danger is over. King Feng Dahui took a deep breath, as long as the negative information was not heard. Who? Jilai Jun, what's wrong with Ada? Satsuki Momoi asked breathlessly while holding the arena door. That's right. Aomine Daiki told about his experience and also asked Kuroko Tetsuya what was going on. Kuroko Tetsuya doesn't know whether to tell her story. He knew the identities of two of the three. One was Aomine Daiki, the backup power forward of the First Army. One is the first choice small forward Fang Jilai, who once refused the position of vice captain. Both of them are solid basketball masters, so he decided to tell his past, since he was going to quit the basketball club anyway. Chapter 17, Kuroko Tetsuya talks about his experience. King Feng Dahue laughed heartlessly. Does that mean your presence is so weak that no one notices your presence? It's so awesome, ah! Aomine Daiki kept laughing. Kuroko Tetsuya said expressionlessly, Aomine-san, you are smiling too much. Excuse me. King Feng Dahue apologized awkwardly, but suddenly found something suspicious. Ah, how do you know my name? Kuroko Tetsuya looked at Aomine Daiki with envy and explained, because you are a celebrity who can play in the first grade. Then he looked at Fang Jilai, who was sitting next to him, and said, the same goes for Jilai, who was selected as the vice captain in the first grade. King Feng Dahue obviously still remembered this incident and complained softly. The result is that I haven't been fooled yet. Kuroko Tetsuya immediately broke the news. That's because Jilai-san doesn't want to be a student. Aomine Daihue laughed twice and changed the topic. What about you? Kuroko Tetsuya thought Aomine Daiki was asking which army he was from. I am from the Third Army. Fang Jilai knew what King Feng Dahue meant, so he helped King Feng Dahue explain. Ada didn't ask what army you were in, he asked what your name was. Kuroko Tetsuya glanced at Aomine Daiki with a questioning look. King Feng Dahue laughed twice and nodded. Alai is right. I'm asking for your name. It doesn't matter if you say 1 or 3 armies. As Aomine Daiki spoke, he glanced at Kuroko Tetsuya's shoes that were blackened by practice. Staying for practice every night shows that you love basketball. There are no bad people who like basketball. This is my theory. Aomine Daiki loves basketball very much, so he has a sense of intimacy with all players who love basketball. A smile appeared on Kuroko Tetsuya's face. What a strange personal theory. When Fang Jilai heard this, he immediately echoed. You think so too? I think so too. King Feng Dahue muttered helplessly. Is there any? Yes, I have. Satsuki Momoi promptly broke up the trouble and looked at this scene with a smile. Kuroko Tetsuya smiled to appreciate the atmosphere, and then said, My name is Kuroko Tetsuya. Please give me your advice. Although Kuroko Tetsuya already knows Aomine Daiki and Fang Jilai, they always need to introduce them seriously when they meet for the first time. My name is Aomine Daiki. Please give me your advice. Aomine Daiki extended his hand to shake Kuroko Tetsuya's hand. My name is Fang Jilai. Please give me your advice. My name is Satsuki Momoi. Please give me your advice. Fang Jilai and Satsuki Momoi introduced themselves one by one and shook hands with Kuroko Tetsuya. Kuroko Tetsuya smiled and greeted everyone. The four of them got to know each other well. During the chat, Aomine Daiki discovered that Kuroko Tetsuya really liked basketball, so he proposed a one-on-one match with Kuroko Tetsuya. This is the character of Aomine Daiki. When you meet someone who is interested, you must have a duel with him. Kuroko Tetsuya can't believe it. After all, Aomine Daiki is a famous figure in the army. Is it really possible to fight a weakling like him in a one-on-one battle? He asked, Can you really spar with me? Aomine Daiki wiped the tip of his nose with his index finger and said with a smile, Yes, I'll be with you anytime. Kuroko Tetsuya nodded, took a deep breath, turned around, and looked at Aomine Daiki with firm eyes. That's it. Please be aware. When Aomine Daiki heard this, he felt that Kuroko Tetsuya might be a strong man. He looked at Kuroko Tetsuya firmly and nodded. Is it really okay for them to do this? Satsuki Momoi asked worriedly next to Fang Jilai. She also thought that Kuroko Tetsuya was very strong and was afraid that the two of them would be injured if they fought too hard. It's okay. This is a famous scene. Fang Jilai smiled and nodded and said he knew what Kuroko Tetsuya meant by being aware. It's not that Kuroko Tetsuya is too strong. It's that he Too weak. Satsuki Momoi obviously didn't understand what Fang Jilai meant by the famous scene. She looked at the field with a worried expression. Kuroko turned sideways and slapped the basketball. Boom, boom, boom. The basketball made noise in the arena. Aomine Daiki took a serious defensive stance, preparing to deal with Kuroko Tetsuya's attack. The two of them were doing their moves quietly, one preparing to break through and the other preparing to defend. The atmosphere became very solemn. Satsuki Momoi's breathing slowed down in response to the solemn atmosphere. Fang Jilai looked at the field with a smile, because only in this way would he not look abrupt when he laughed the next second. Sudden, Kuroko Tetsuya moved. He quickly broke through from Aomine Daiki's left side. The sudden breakthrough made Aomine Daiki slightly dazed. By the time Aomine Daiki reacted, Kuroko Tetsuya had already passed by on his left. Aomine Daiki quickly turned around and stretched out his right hand, trying to break off Kuroko Tetsuya's basketball. But the next second, the basketball Kuroko Tetsuya was carrying suddenly hit his knee, and the basketball was also thrown away. Kuroko Teta said expressionlessly, then covered his knees. It hurts. King Feng Dahui's outstretched hand was stunned in the air, and then he reacted and complained. This is nothing. Fang Jilai couldn't help but burst out laughing, while Satsuki Momoi looked at the field in confusion. She didn't know how to answer for a while. You said you should be aware of yourself, but I thought you were very capable. King Feng Dahui complained slightly. He originally thought it would be a hearty battle, but he didn't expect. Kuroko Tetsuya explained. What are you talking about? I'm the third military officer. Aomine Daiki was confused for a moment, and Kuroko Tetsuya continued to explain. I mean, I'm not skilled enough yet, so please be aware. Aomine Daiki. You are really weird. Kuroko Tetsuya smiled helplessly. He also felt that he might not be suitable for basketball. Sure enough, you still don't want to fight anymore? Aomine Daiki touched his head with some remorse. He turned around and walked to the basket, stretched out his hand to signal Kuroko Tetsuya to pass the ball to him. Kuroko Tetsuya saw this scene and knew that Aomine Daiki would continue to sparring with him. So he smiled and passed the ball out. Fang Jilai watched this scene quietly, knowing in his heart that tonight was the day when the bond between Kuroko Tetsuya and Aomine Daiki began. Fang Jilai himself could be regarded as witnessing a famous scene. On the court, Aomine Daiki holds the ball and Kuroko Tetsuya defends. Aomine Daiki didn't attack, just because Kuroko Tetsuya was weak, he smiled. Breakthrough from the left. Kuroko Tetsuya kept looking at Aomine Daiki's footsteps, and he quickly adjusted. Aomine Daiki suddenly changed from one disguise on the left to a breakthrough on the right. I originally thought that this disguise could completely throw Kuroko Tetsuya away. But the next second, Chapter 18 competition training Aomine Daiki's smile suddenly disappeared because Kuroko Tetsuya, who was originally guarding the right, appeared in front of Aomine Daiki at this moment. Seeing this, Aomine Daiki quickly turned around, passed Kuroko Tetsuya in one step, and then scored a layup. Kuroko Tetsuya looked at Aomine Daiki in surprise. He didn't expect the difference to be so big. But Aomine Daiki was more surprised than Kuroko Tetsuya. After landing, he turned around and asked, Kuroko Tetsuya was the first to praise. It's amazing. Aomine-san, can you do it again? Aomine Daiki's puzzled expression disappeared, turned into a smile, and nodded to continue. In this way, Aomine Daiki and Kuroko Tetsuya practiced all night. Fang Jilai also practiced with Kuroko Tetsuya for a while. After just practicing for a while, Kuroko Tetsuya was very surprised by Fang Jilai's shooting speed. Although I have seen Fang Jilai shooting before, only after actually playing defense can I realize that such speed is really disappointing. King Feng Dahui also wanted to have a duel with Fang Jilai, but Fang Jilai refused. King Feng Dahui originally wanted to continue clinging to Fang Jilai, but when Fang Jilai took out the recording, King Feng Dahui was silent. Later, Aomine Daiki said that he and Kuroko would practice together every night. Kuroko Tetsuya readily agreed, and then everyone went home. On the way home, King Fang Dahue hooked up with Fang Jilai and whispered in Fang Jilai's ear for mercy. I hope Fang Jilai could delete the recording. Satsuki Momoi doesn't know what happened. She is secretly cursing Aomine Daiki. She was jealous. But Fang Jilai didn't care so much, saying that he would delete it when he was in a good mood. It made Aomine Daiki look sad. Time flies. The first game for Fang Jilai and others has arrived. Teikō ushered in their first game against Haizaki Academy. Ha ha ha. It feels so good to play games without having to go to class. Aomine Daiki looked excited and talked about his desire for the competition. Because it was a competition day, Fang Jilai and the others were allowed to skip class and compete with the team. For Fang Jilai, studying in Japan is as difficult as elementary school. It doesn't matter whether you study or not. But Aomine Daiki is different. His grades are not ideal, and he is not the kind of person who likes going to class. Now, not only do I have legitimate reasons to skip class, I can also play my favorite basketball. This feeling could be said to be explosive. Satsuki Momoi stood next to Fang Jilai, interrupting Aomine Daiki's fantasy. Ada, don't think that everything will be fine after the competition. The lessons you missed will be made up for later. King Fang Dahue's mouth twitched slightly, and he said impatiently, I know. By the way, why do you want to follow us out? Just as Satsuki Momoi was about to explain, Fang Jilai beat him to it. Because of Satsuki, he became an advisor to our team. Satsuki will follow us when we play in the future. This is what the coach requires. King Fang Jilai was stunned for a moment, with a hint of disbelief in his tone. Satsuki, have you become our team consultant? Satsuki Momoi was naturally unhappy when Aomine Daiki questioned her, so she spoke. What? You don't believe it? Aomine Daiki waved his hand and lamented that there was no one available on the team. Satsuki Momoi was so angry that she wanted to elbow Aomine, but was stopped by Fang Jilai. He grabbed Satsuki Momoi's hand and whispered, Don't argue with him. After Satsuki Momoi's hand was grabbed by Fang Jilai, her face turned red and her temper suddenly disappeared. He held my hand again, so shy. The three of them walked to the gathering place together. Akashi Shijiro, Midorima Shintarō, and others have been waiting for a long time. Good morning. Fonzie at Sushi Murasakibara was eating corn on the cob and waved hello to his big boss. Good morning, everyone. Fang Jilai greeted everyone, and Akashi Shijiro and others also responded one after another. Today is our first game, so keep your spirits up. The assistant coach spoke before the game and asked everyone to prepare well. Isn't Senior Nijimura coming? King Fang Dahue asked when he saw that there was no figure of Hongsu and Zizu in the team. The assistant coach had already expected this, and he replied, Hongsuin is unable to come today because of something. King Fang, you will start in his place. Great. Aomine Daiki waved his fist happily when he heard that he was the starter. Starting the first game, I must perform well. Everyone got on the bus together. After getting on the bus, the assistant coach took the list and said, Now announce the list. Point guard, Akashi Shijiro. Shooting guard, Midorima Shintarō. Small forward, Fang Jilai. Power forward, Aomine Daiki. Center, Atsushi Murasakibara. The above is the starting list. Prepare well and start the game when you get there. Yes. Everyone replied together. Fang Jilai listened to the list read out by the assistant and thought secretly, this lineup is all-star. The team contains almost the entire era of miracles, although they are still in the bud stage in their first year of junior high school and have not yet reached the true flowering stage. But even if it is only in the bud stage, its strength cannot be underestimated. Atsushi Murasakibara's power has slowly begun to be released. Aomine Daiki's speed is also increasing day by day, and his wild nature has awakened early, but he is still not able to use it skillfully. The door was also forced open through a gap, and it wouldn't be long before he could actually push the door open. Needless to say, he is very powerful. Midorima Shintarō seems to be developing steadily and has never missed a three-pointer. Akashi Shijiro, the number one personality, is also growing steadily. His passing vision is getting better and better, and the quality of the balls he passes is also getting higher and higher. It won't be long before he can pass the ball that puts his teammates into the false zone. With this lineup, wouldn't it be easy to defeat Haizaki? But Fang Jilai was wrong. Although the era of miracles was very strong, they were still in their budding stage, and their cooperation was not particularly good. Haizaki School is all about cooperation, and their ace Jinichi Inoue is also very tough. After the bus arrived at the location, it slowly stopped. Everyone got out of the car with the assistant coach and headed to the competition venue. After arriving at the venue, the two teams met backstage. Haizaki's head coach looked at Teikō leading the team as just an assistant coach. Even the main power forward Nijimura Shizo is not on the team. There was an emotion in his heart, an emotion of being looked down upon. Coach Teikō, you guys are going a little too far. The assistant coach didn't have any explanation and just took everyone to the locker room. In the locker room, the assistant coach originally wanted to arrange tactics, but thinking of what Shirogane Kozo told him in the morning, he gave up. Shirogane Kozo told the assistant coach in the morning not to use tactics in the first game and to let the first-year players handle everything. The assistant coach knew that Shirogane Jinzo wanted to train his troops, so he just had to follow the arrangements. Chapter 19, the first game. After everyone warmed up, the game started soon. Since there were not many descriptions of the tea competition in the previous life, Fang Jilai was not very clear about the teams competing. He didn't even know which school the 5 untitled generals were in. But it doesn't matter, because no school can beat the era of miracles. Although they're all in the bud stage now, Fang Jilai is not. Haizaki School Center and Atsushi Murasakibara jump ball, because Haizaki's coach told them about Teikō. After everyone learned that Teikō's main players didn't come, the coach didn't come, and all those who came were first years, they were also very angry. Haizaki's center secretly vowed to crush Atsushi Murasakibara on the opposite side. The referee throws the basketball high into the air. The game begins. The game has started, but I heard that none of Teikō's main players are here. Yes, all those who came are first-year students, and Nijimura didn't come either. Has Teikō given up? Teikō is really in decline. Those first years with colorful hair on the court, I don't think they can play basketball. That is to say, Haizaki must have won this battle easily. The basketball is flying high in the air. The center took off vigorously, wanting to take the lead for his team. What? The center looked at Atsushi Murasakibara, who had pointed the basketball towards his team and made a surprise sound. Why did he jump so high? This is a first grader? The audience let out bursts of exclamations. Hey, are you kidding? That purple-haired first grader jumped so high. That's right. I clicked the basketball behind my team in an instant. On the field, when the center was still doubting himself, the basketball passed by his face. Too bad. The center turned around to cover up the defense, but a black figure rushed out like a cheetah. Aomine Daiki caught Akashi Shijiro's pass and rushed to the enemy's basket single-handedly. Seeing that no one could keep up with his speed, Aomine Daiki immediately jumped up and prepared for a dunk. I won this ball. Just when Aomine Daiki thought he had secured this point, a figure jumped up from behind him. Collapse. The figure suddenly slapped Aomine Daiki's basketball away. The basketball that was shot away hit Aomine Daiki and then bounced out of bounds. Beep. Out of bounds, Haizaki has the ball. Aomine Daihue turned around with a surprised look on his face, wanting to see who had blocked his shot. A young man with wheat-colored skin stood behind King Feng Daihue and sighed slightly. Fortunately, I caught up. Then he looked up at Aomine Daiki and said, "This is a no-fly zone." Akashi Shijiro looked at the young man warily. He did not expect that this man could actually block Aomine Daiki. Fang Jilai thought wildly in his mind, trying to remember who this person was. The young man originally thought Aomine Daiki would be frightened, but he didn't expect it. Instead of showing a frustrated expression, Aomine Daiki stared at him excitedly. Seeing King Feng Daihue's expression, Fang Jilai shook his head helplessly. Come on, King Feng is going to play solo. On the way back to defense, King Feng Daihue said to everyone, "Give me the balls later." Midorima Shintarō frowned and reminded, "King Feng, don't forget we are competing." Akashi Shijiro didn't reply and was thinking silently. 5 balls. I only give you 5 balls. After a moment, Akashi Shijiro said slowly. King Feng Daihue nodded excitedly and returned to his position. Haizaki's center sent the ball to the youth, Inoue catches the ball. Inoue took the basketball and drove the ball to the front court. Aomine Daiki quickly stepped forward to defend. His eyes were serious. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and he looked at Inoue excitedly. Inoue was a little surprised. Why did this man look so excited after being blocked? But he didn't care so much. He slapped the basketball and lowered his center of gravity slightly, looking for a breakthrough opportunity. Aomine Daiki's eyes were fixed on a basketball, and his center of gravity also lowered along with Inoue. Inoue observed Aomine Daiki's stance. He held the ball in his left hand and moved forward, made a breakthrough starting move. Aomine Daiki quickly blocked his right hand direction. The next second, Inoue changed direction and rushed to the left of Aomine Daiki to break through. What? Aomine Daiki turned around and wanted to take out the basketball, but Inoue suddenly combined the ball and made a three-step layup. Atsushi Murasakibara made timely defense and jumped up with Inoue, trying to block Inoue's shot. Why is it so high? Inoue looked at Atsushi Murasakibara, who was blocking the sky and the sun, and complained silently in his heart. He smashed the ball to the ground and passed it to the center behind Atsushi Murasakibara. The center caught the ball, jumped up with a roar, and dunked the basketball into the basket. Dunking is always the most exciting thing. After seeing the dunk, the audience cheered enthusiastically. After the center landed, he beat his chest excitedly, as if swearing that he was the dominant player under the basket. King Z, can you guard your people well? Atsushi Murasakibara said calmly after landing. Excuse me. Aomine Daiki touched his head in embarrassment. This time, it was indeed his failure to defend well. Offense and defense transition. After Akashi Sejiro dribbled through half the game, he passed the basketball to Aomine Daiki. Aomine Daiki immediately made a triple threat pose after receiving the ball. In fact, he doesn't know how to be a triple threat. He just made this action subconsciously after catching the ball. Inoue raised his right hand and pressed it against Aomine Daiki's waist. Aomine Daiki kept observing Inoue's defensive posture. Boom! Then Aomine Daiki suddenly broke through to the left. So fast, Inoue didn't react for a while, but when he did, Aomine Daiki broke through. He immediately turned around and tried to defend himself. Our own center also immediately made up the defense. Aomine Daiki has a center in front of him to defend, and Inoue in the back to catch up. But he had no idea of passing the ball. He jumped high. The center saw that Aomine Daiki didn't pass the ball, but jumped up towards him. Feeling that he had been challenged, the center knelt down and jumped up, trying to block Aomine Daiki. Inoue from behind caught up and jumped up in the same way. The two men blocked Aomine Daiki's attack, route from front to back. Aomine Daiki was not proficient enough in shooting without a fixed shot in his first year of junior high school, and now he doesn't know how to deal with this situation. Here, a voice came from behind Aomine Daiki. He couldn't care so much and threw the basketball behind him. The basketball is passed very crookedly, and the height is also very high. Inoue looked back and saw the trajectory of the basketball, and he was already certain of the outcome. The ball must go out of bounds. But the next second, a figure jumped up high and caught the basketball that had deviated from its flight path. What kind of bouncing is this? Inoue looked surprised. He seemed to have seen a rocket flying in the sky just now. But while he was still surprised, the basketball suddenly drew an arc brush. Chapter 20, the second goal. The basketball enters the basket steadily, from when the basketball is caught to the moment it enters the basket. The whole process takes just 1 second. Inoue didn't even see how the basketball was thrown. He stared blankly at the scoreboard showing Teik's 3 points. What happened just now? Not only him, but the others were all stunned in place. They didn't see how the basketball entered the basket. The ball that was clearly going out of bounds actually entered the basket. Only Weisaki's small forward knows everything on the court. Knowing everything made him even more surprised. Just now, he saw Fang Jilai in front of him jump up suddenly. He took out the basketball that was out of bounds. Before he could react, Fang Jilai had already jumped up and shot the basketball. The attack speed was extremely fast, directly locking him in place. What just happened? Why did Teik score 3 points? I don't know. I just picked up a pen. Why did Teik get 3 points? I saw Teik's number 7 just take out the basketball, then flick the ball with his arm and scored. I saw it too. He must have been blinded. He didn't even make any preparations. He must have thrown it blindly. I also think, how can a normal person shoot the ball so fast? On the field, after Inoue learned that the basketball just shot was thrown by Teik number 7, his expression was serious, and a sense of crisis in his heart gradually increased. Damn you. There is no way to defend this shot speed. Inoue could only comfort himself in his heart, hoping that Fang Jilai's shot was blinded. If not, then their game would be over. Alai, you are too fierce. My passing is pretty good. King Feng Dehoe ran beside Fang Jilai and said with a smile. Fang Jilai nodded speechlessly. Hey brother, your ball has been passed to the sky. After Aomine Daiki received the affirmation, he returned to the defense with a happy face. On Weisaki's side, Inoue is no longer holding the ball, but the point guard is holding the ball to advance. The point guard slowly pushed the basketball to the front court and observed the situation on the court. The small forward side can't afford it. Even if Fang Jilai missed the ball just now, the bounce was real. My own small forward is good at catching and shooting, but not good at holding the ball. Therefore, the small forward was directly blocked by Fang Jilai. At the center, there are Fang Jilai and Midorima Shintarō as support. If it is passed, Fang Jilai and others can quickly make up the defense. The shooting guard kept running, but couldn't get rid of Shintarō Midorima. Seeing that the shooting guard didn't have a suitable shooting position, he looked at Inoue again. Seeing that Inoue's position was not very close to the inside, the point guard decided to attack on his own. Looking at Akashi Shijiro, who was a head shorter than him in front of him, he found that he didn't seem to have the aura of a strong man about him. He mocked silently in his mind. He's just a first-year student, so he's definitely not strong. After he breaks through the red hair in front of him, he mobilizes the purple hair to cover himself, and then passes the basketball to the point guard's center to end the ball. Once the idea is established, execute it immediately. The point guard kept dribbling the ball with his hips, trying to mobilize Akashi Shijiro's defensive focus. Akashi Shijiro quietly watched the point guard's movements, and there was no slight loss of defense. Not moving? Is it because you can't defend? Seeing that Akashi Shijiro didn't make any move, the point guard looked hard and decided to break through him directly. The point guard slammed the ball to the right. Seeing that Akashi Shijiro didn't make any move, he thought disdainfully. Sure enough, the first graders don't know how to defend at all. The point guard broke through Akashi Shijiro and chose a jumper. Because insider Atsushi Murasakibara does have a big impact on him. I won this ball, just when he was complacent. Collapse. Who? Who shot? The point guard looked at Fang Jilai flying in the air in disbelief. The basketball he threw was blown away by Fang Jilai, and the direction it flew was exactly the direction of his team. The point guard suddenly remembered something and turned around in disbelief. Looking back, I saw Akashi Shijiro put the basketball into the basket with a 3-step layup. It turns out that he let me pass on purpose. The point guard still doesn't know what Akashi Shijiro and the others are thinking. Just to let him break through Akashi Shijiro. And finally Fang Jilai blocked his shot. However, what kind of strength and trust does it take to think that Fang Jilai can block him 100%? Inoue patted the point guard on the shoulder and said with a serious expression, "That number 7 is very strong. Try to avoid encountering him. Then give me the ball." When the point guard saw his team's ace speaking, he sighed, adjusted his mentality, and prepared for the next attack. "Well done, Jilai," Akashi Shijiro said to Fang Jilai with a faint smile. Weisaki's point guard actually couldn't break through Akashi Shijiro, but he saw the look Fang Jilai secretly gave him. Let him understand and let go of the defense. He didn't know why he had this idea, as if he suddenly had the same idea as Fang Jilai. Point guard Weisaki continued to hold the ball, and after passing half the court, he handed the ball to Inoue. Inoue held the ball in the arc and made a 3-threat move towards Aomine Daiki. Aomine Daiki defended vigilantly. Inoue once again made a big change and wanted to repeat his old tricks. Aomine Daiki was always paying attention and quickly followed Inoue's footsteps. At the same time, he stretched out his hand to take out Inoue's ball. Inoue noticed Aomine Daiki's movements and Kukyu turned around. Aomine Daiki's attempt to score the ball was in vain. Inoue turned around, jumped up high, and threw the basketball. Brush. The basketball hit the net. Weisaki's Inoue is really strong. Yes, although he is not as good as Nijimura, he is still one of the best power forwards. That first-year guy can't stop Inoue at all. When it was Teik's turn to serve, Aomine Daiki excitedly wanted to take the basketball from Akashi Shigero's hand. Second goal, Akashi Shigero did not refuse and passed the basketball to Aomine Daiki. After Aomine Daiki caught the ball, he made no other moves and started to break through directly. What? You broke through without even holding the ball firmly. The sudden breakthrough left Inoue somewhat unable to react. Seeing that he had lost his position, Inoue quickly chased after him and tried to replace Aomine Daiki. Weisaki's center originally wanted to cover up, but Fang Jilai came over and blocked him. This is a pick and roll. Hey, stay here. Fang Jilai said calmly with a faint smile. Weisaki's center wanted to bypass Fang Jilai, but he found that his strength was no match for Fang Jilai. What kind of monster is he? How can a first grader have such power? There was no one in front of King Feng Dahui, and he jumped up excitedly. Collapse. Chapter 21, Giant Steel Wall. Inoue froze on the spot and murmured, "No, it's not. This is a dunk." Inoue began to doubt himself. The first grader he had just defended dunked like this? The point guard stared blankly at King Feng Dahui, then looked back at Fang Jilai. Hey. One pervert is not enough. Now comes a second pervert? Am I dreaming? That freshman just dunked. Hey, you were dreaming. Why are you pinching me? He really dunked. Is he really in the first grade? The audience outside the stadium made noisy noises. King Feng Dahui waved his fist excitedly and ran to Fang Jilai's side when he returned to defense. How was Alai? Was the dunk I just made cool? Fang Jilai nodded helplessly. Handsome. Center Weisaki served the ball directly to Inoue. Inoue's confidence was not dampened by Aomine Daiki's dunk. At most, he was just shocked. After all, he has been detained by Hongsen many times before. Inoue held the ball through the half and faced Aomine Daiki's defense. He lowered his focus and decided to teach this newcomer a lesson. He darted to the right. King Feng Dahui quickly followed. Inoue made a change of direction by switching his right hand to his left hand. Or change direction, you can't fool me. Aomine Daiki defended to his right. Inoue raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and the moment his left hand touched the ball, he moved the basketball to his right hand again, made a double change, suffered. Aomine Daiki knew that he had been cheated, and Inoue had already broken through from his left. He turned around quickly to get the ball, but Inoue closed the basketball early and made a pull-up jump shot. Atsushi Murasakibara wants to cover up the defense, but now he simply cannot defend the area he did in high school. Brush. The basketball hit the net. Aomine Daiki was not frustrated. He continued to ask for the basketball and started fighting with Inoue. It became a one-on-one match for them on the court. Originally, Akashi Shigero only wanted to give Aomine Daiki 5 goals, but later he really couldn't stand Aomine Daiki's begging. So he passed a few more balls to Aomine Daiki until the end of the first quarter. The score is Teikō 23 versus Weisaki 21. Weisaki showed amazing resilience, allowing Teikō to lead by just 2 points. King Feng Dahui sat on the bench tiredly, drinking water brought by the team members next to him. The assistant coach looked at everyone's status. Exit Aomine-san in the next section. Enter Haizaki-san. Coach, I can still play. Aomine Dahui was a little unhappy and wanted to refute, but he was stopped by the coach's eyes. Haizaki Shogo nodded and glanced at Fang Jilai from the corner of his eye, with a hint of fear on his expression. Since chatting with the god of death that night, Haizaki Shogo has had a psychological shadow on Fang Jilai. Now when Fang Jilai says something to Haizaki Shogo has to stand still. The game continues. Haizaki Shogo enters the game. Fang Jilai said casually, "Fight hard and don't lose the chain." Haizaki Shogo immediately stood at attention and nodded continuously, indicating that he would not let go. Teak ball possession. Akashi Sidro dribbled the ball through the half and observed the situation on the court. Weisaki's Inoue did not end up, and his physical strength was definitely better than Aomine, who had not blossomed. Opposing him at this time was Fang Jilai. When King Fang Dehue came off the field, Jilai took his place. Haizaki Shogo serves as small forward. Akashi Sidro passed the basketball to Haizaki Shogo, wanting to see what Haizaki Shogo could do. Haizaki Shogo took the basketball and looked at Weisaki's small forward who was defending him. He smiled evilly and licked his lips. Just because he is afraid of Fang Jilai does not mean that his character has changed. For others, he still maintains his previous attitude. Haizaki Shogo slammed the ball and passed Weisaki's small forward in one step. The center wanted to cover up the defense, but Haizaki Shogo suddenly stopped and threw the basketball. It's exactly the same action that Inoue used before. What? It was actually my movements. Inoue stared blankly at Haizaki Shogo, a little unbelievable that his actions were done so easily by others. Fang Jilai thought silently in his heart. Does Haizaki Shogo already know how to snatch at this stage? The center gritted his teeth. He originally thought that Haizaki Shogo would go straight to the layup, but he didn't expect it to be an emergency stop. But there is no way. As long as a goal is scored, it is a good goal. The point guard just caught the serve. Inoue shouted, "Give me the ball." If the ace of his team calls him to give him the ball, he will definitely give it to him. The basketball is handed over to Inoue. Inoue dribbled the ball to Fang Jilai. In his mind, Fang Jilai was just a first grader who shot relatively quickly. Although Aomine Daiki could dunk in his first year of junior high school, he was still able to break through at will. So he was not afraid of Fang Jilai. On the contrary, there's a mentality of wanting to tear apart Fang Jilai's defense. Inoue slowly lowered his center of gravity and prepared to break through. He is so obsessed with it, since he wants to break through Jilai's defense. Aomine Daiki on the bench said, his tone full of pity for Inoue. Everyone in Teikō on the field showed strange expressions, as if they were mourning for Inoue. When everyone in Weisaki saw the expressions of everyone in Teikō, they all became confused and didn't know why. Inoue's attention was always on Fang Jilai's side, and he didn't notice the changes in everyone's expressions. Just when he was about to break through from the right, a giant steel wall rose from the ground, completely blocking his right attack route. The movement that was originally rushing to the right suddenly stopped. What is this? Where did that steel wall come from? Hisses of exclamation came from the audience. Midorima Shintarō stared at the huge steel wall that emerged with a solemn expression. It appears again, and it's shocking every time I watch it. Fang Jilai listened to the hissing sound in his ears, his expression slightly speechless. It's obvious that his defense has been fooled by others, and they are all too good. I just made a defensive posture with a weak side hand, and in the eyes of others, it became a giant steel wall. Inoue looked solemnly at the giant steel wall. At this moment, the giant wall had blocked the road on the right, leaving only a breakthrough space on the left. There is no other way but to break through to the left. Inoue suddenly lowered his center of gravity and broke through from the left. Although Inoue dribbles well, his proficiency with his left hand is definitely lower than that with his right hand. Dribbling with the left hand will definitely be a little more awkward than with the right hand. Fang Jilai seized this opportunity and gave Inoue a little physical confrontation. But from Inoue's point of view, this confrontation was like hitting a high wall. The ball he was dribbling with his left hand almost flew away. Inoue quickly adjusted and wanted to reorganize the offense. Sudden, a huge hand appeared in his eyes. Snap! Chapter 22 the game is over. Inoue found that something seemed to be missing from his hand. Ball! Inoue turned around suddenly and saw that the basketball had been transported to his own half by Fang Jilai. How could it be so fast? No one in Weisaki reacted. By the time they did, Fang Jilai had already put the basketball into the basket for a three-step layup. Did you see that number 7 ran so fast and reached the opposite basket in an instant? Yes. Is he really a first-year student? It's too scary. How can Waisaki fight now? Gulu, Inoue swallowed hard, seeing the huge steel wall, huge black hands, and unparalleled speed. Can you really defeat such an opponent when you crush yourself both offensively and defensively? His mood gradually became a little low, and point guard Waisaki discovered this in time. Although the point guard himself was not in a good mood, the score was not too big. The point guard stepped forward to comfort Inoue and signaled the coach to call timeout. Coach Waisaki knew that his student's momentum was not right, so he quickly called a timeout. After Inoue came down, the coach gave Inoue a meal of chicken soup for the soul, which finally brought Inoue back. Pause back. King Feng Dahue replaced Fang Jilai and took Fang Jilai's place. Because the assistant coach feels that Fang Jilai doesn't need to practice anymore, and he is really suitable for the sport of basketball. Simply born for basketball. Fang Jilai was not depressed after coming off the field, but felt happy because his opponent was too weak. Fang Jilai sat next to Satsuki Momoi, and Satsuki Momoi asked happily, "Alai, you can accompany me tomorrow to collect information on our opponents." Fang Jilai raised his head and drank the water handed over by Satsuki Momoi. He was surprised for a moment, and then nodded in agreement. Satsuki Momoi was immediately elated, with happy emotions appearing on her expression. On the playing field, Inoue's strength is not weak, and he can barely compete with the unopened Aomine Daiki. But instead of rising, the score fell even further behind. Because Teik's player is not just Aomine Daiki. Atsushi Murasakibara, at this stage, does not have the habit of standing in a daze under his own basket. He still attacks with everyone, frequently attacking the opponent's basket. The power gap made Waisaki's center lose any temper, and the inside was completely dominated by Atsushi Murasakibara. Midorima Shintarō performed normally on the outside, making 7 of 7 three-pointers and scoring 21 points, completely blowing up Waisaki's outside. But this is all thanks to Akashi Shigero's organization. His excellent vision and passing connected the entire team. Waisaki had previously used cooperation to fight back and forth with Teik and others. But as Teik and others cooperated better and better, coupled with Akashi Shigero's organization. In the fourth quarter, Fang Jilai came back on the field, and Teik completely dominated the game, completely extinguishing Waisaki's last flame. The score was finally settled at 108-74. Teik left Waisaki behind by a full 34 points, also swearing that Teik was not here to show off. Fang Jilai and others have also entered the field of vision of others. Many people know that Teik has 5 powerful first years. After the game, Aomine Daiki walked up to Inoue and greeted with a smile. That's a good fight. They are rivals on the field and friends off the field. There is no hostility between Inoue. You also played well, but I will definitely win the next game. Aomine Daiki smiled broadly. Ha ha ha. I will definitely win next time. After this match, Inoue and Aomine can be considered friends. After all, they played against each other for the whole game. Fang Jilai has always been curious about whether Inoue appeared in the original work, and why he had no impression of it. Although the strength is not strong, it is considered very strong if it can be compared with Aomine Daiki's 4 and 6 in the bud stage. Aomine Daiki's 6 and 4. After thinking for a long time and finding that he had no clue, Fang Jilai gave up. Why did he think so much? There is no benefit for messing up. In fact, Inoue was still a little wary of Fang Jilai. The huge steel wall and the culprits made Inoue still unforgettable. Coach Waisaki gritted his teeth and shook hands with the assistant coach. You are so lucky to have such talented young people here. The assistant coach felt Coach Waisaki's emotions, but he didn't care. Of course, you're not bad either. Snort. Coach Waisaki let go and led the players from his school away. Fang Jilai and others also followed the assistant teacher back to the school. At that time, Fang Jilai invited everyone to have a meal. Akashi Shigero didn't want to go because his housekeeper came to pick him up, but he was still taken to a dinner party by Fang Jilai and King Feng Dahue. Atsushi Murasakibara was the most excited, using both hands to sweep across the dining table. That night, Kuroko was practicing alone in the gym and did not see Fang Jilai, or Aomine Daiki. Sure enough, forget it. Kuroko felt slightly depressed and then practiced basketball alone. Who? 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 As I'm late. Aomine Daiki gasped, put his right hand on the doorframe, bent slightly, and apologized. Kuroko Tetsuya turned his head in disbelief, the excitement in his eyes already unbearable. He nodded heavily and started practicing with Aomine Daiki. Aomine Daiki has been sparring with Kuroko in the past few days, but Fang Jilai has not and only comes to take a look occasionally. Kuroko has long been used to Fang Jilai's bad state. He observed that Fang Jilai likes to show off no matter what time he is. Whether it is in class or training in the gym, Fang Jilai will never give up the opportunity to show off. When Kuroko Tetsuya and Aomine Daiki were practicing, Fang Jilai was already walking home side by side with Satsuki Momoi. Alai, don't forget your promise for tomorrow. Fang Jilai nodded, saying that he would not forget the agreement. The next day, Fang Jilai got up early and arrived at the designated place, where he found Satsuki Momoi waiting there early. After Fang Jilai arrived, the two walked into the arena together to explore information about other teams. Soon, the day for the second round of competition arrived. When everyone in Teikō was changing clothes in the locker room, King Feng Dahue suddenly put his arm around Fang Jilai's shoulders and asked with a smile, "Alai, how's your investigation with Satsuki going?" Fang Jilai ignored King Feng Dahue's movements, gently pushed King Feng Dahue away, and changed his clothes. It's not bad. The opponent in this match is not strong, not even comparable to Inoue in the last match. Aomine Daiki looked a little depressed after hearing this. "Oh, that's it. I thought today would be a hearty battle." Fang Jilai complained, "I think you're having a lot of fun, so that's enough." King Feng Dahue laughed twice and stopped answering. He turned away and suddenly saw a very strange thing. Hey, who brought the chainsaw? Chapter 23, the second game. King Feng Dahue looked at the small electric saw on the seat and shouted in surprise, "Can you bring a chainsaw in?" Midorima Shintarō finished changing his clothes and put on his glasses and said, "This is today's lucky charm." Just saying that was not enough. Midorima Shintarō also picked up the chainsaw and waved it twice. Aomine Daiki quickly evaded. Stop, don't move. Nijimura Shuzo looked at this scene with a smile. That's right. Coach Platinum and Nijimura Suzu are here today. Midorima Shintarō didn't make too many moves. He quietly held the chainsaw and prepared to enter the court. When everyone changed their clothes and prepared to enter the competition venue, the staff stopped Midorima Shintarō. "Sorry, classmate. Chainsaws cannot be brought into the stadium." Midorima Shintarō stopped, still hesitating whether to say anything. Nijimura Shuzo rushed forward and took the chainsaw over. "I'm sorry, my junior is not very sensible." After saying that, he handed the chainsaw to the staff. He turned to Midorima Shintarō and said, "Next time, just put the dangerous items in the locker room." Midorima Shintarō's face was expressionless. He pushed up his glasses and nodded. Look, Teikō is coming. The momentum is so strong. Look, the number 1 forward in the middle school, Nijimura Shuzo, is here too. And Fang Jilai, it was a joy to watch him play a few days ago. I think Midorima Shintarō is pretty good. His three-point shot was so accurate. That's right. After a few days, everyone in Teikō gradually became known to the audience. Facing this scene, Fang Jilai felt absolutely unfazed. Aomine Daiki was uninterested because in the locker room, he learned that his opponent was not strong anymore. For Aomine Daiki, who just wants to fight against the strong, it is undoubtedly fatal. Everyone started to warm up, and Fang Jilai randomly shot a few baskets, several of which were seen by the opponent's small forward. The other school's name is Urkio. Urkio's small forward swallowed hard and turned to ask his captain, "Captain, do you really want me to defend that number 7? The captain of the second bridge is the center, and he nodded with difficulty. He also knows the strength of his school, and he will definitely not be able to defeat a strong team like Teikō, even though the opponents are all first-year students. But looking at the attitude of Teikō's main force towards them, we know that they have become the starters and Teikō's real main force. The current goal of the Nidashire Center is to block Atsushi Murasakibara, at least not to let him score easily. The small forward looked at Fang Jilai with difficulty and muttered quickly, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It will be over in a while. It will be over in a while." Beep. The referee blows the whistle and both teams start the game. "Please give me some advice." The two teams stood opposite each other and bowed to each other. After all, friendship came first and competition came second. Everyone on Teik's side looked normal, but Urkio was different. Everyone in Urkio's starting lineup had solemn expressions, especially the small forward, who kept mumbling something. King Feng Day muttered boringly, "What? The opponent is so virtuous." Seeing the state of everyone at Urkio, Aomine Daiki really couldn't arouse any interest. Aomine Daiki is the most disgusted person who thinks he has failed before the game even starts. It is worth mentioning that Coach Platinum did not let Nijimura Shozao play, so the starting lineup is still Fang Jilai's 5 players. Fang Jilai said nothing and waited silently for the jump ball. Everyone on both sides took their positions. The referee walked between Atsushi Murasakibara and Futabashi center and threw the basketball high. Although center Futabashi jumped up hard, Atsushi Murasakibara effortlessly tipped the basketball into his own team. The ball fell into Fang Jilai's hands. Akashi Sejiro didn't ask for the ball and ran to the front court to take a position. Fang Jilai looked at Akashi Sejiro's movements and shook his head helplessly. "Come on, I have to organize it again." Since he wants to organize it himself, Fang Jilai must do a good job in organizing the team. He observed the movements and positions of the remaining 9 people and constantly speculated in his mind about their next move. In the eyes of the other 9 people, they suddenly saw ripples rippling under Fang Jilai's feet. Ripples spread out layer by layer, rippling throughout the entire stadium. The 9 people on the field suddenly felt a gaze looking at them, as if they had seen through them. The captain of Urkio looked shocked. Fake it, what does this feel like? Why do I feel like I've been seen through?" Not only the captain of Nitsubashi, but also the other players of Nitsubashi, including Teik's 4 people, also feel this way. Aomine Daiki smiled softly. "Alai's skills shock me every time I see them." Midorima Shintarō heard what Aomine Daiki said, but he did not refute because Fang Jilai's skills also shocked him. Akashi Sejiro is smiling, and now he will smile for the strength of his friends. The calmest person in the audience was Atsushi Murasakibara. For him, nothing Fang Jilai could do was too much, unless Fang Jilai didn't invite him to dinner. The Urkio small forward was sweating coldly and standing in front of Fang Jilai, trembling slightly. "Oh my God, what kind of monster am I defending?" Although he worked hard to adjust his mentality and defend Fang Jilai seriously. But Fang Jilai didn't even look at him and showed his behavior as if he didn't take him seriously. Seeing that Fang Jilai seemed to be in a daze, the small forward stretched out his hand to steal the ball. But the next second, he suddenly felt as if he was being locked by some sharp gaze. He raised his head with difficulty and met Fang Jilai's eyes. The moment they looked at each other, he felt that everything he had eaten and done in the morning had been seen through by Fang Jilai. He immediately retracted his hand, his body was trembling, and he kept mumbling, "I'm sorry, sorry, sorry." The person involved, Fang Jilai, was very confused. "What the hell? Why are you apologizing?" Fang Jilai felt that the small forward of the second bridge was inexplicable and apologized to me without doing anything. He no longer paid attention to the small forward on the second bridge, raised his right hand, and quickly threw the ball over. Brush! A flash of white light flashed. Captain Urkio felt a sound coming from the wind in his ears. Not good. He reacted and turned around to stop him. But Atsushi Murasakibara had already caught the basketball and jumped high into the air. Bang! The sound of dunking suddenly sounded. Everything happened too fast. Before the captain of Urkio could react, the ball had already been scored. Really or not? How did the ball pass? I didn't see it clearly either. It seems to be from number 7. It's so scary, I already scored in the blink of an eye. Not only the captain of Urkio was confused, but the people watching the game on the sidelines were also confused. They just blinked and you scored? Chapter 24 Hurts. Atsushi Murasakibara let go of the basket and dropped it to the ground, muttering to himself. Fang Zai's passing is as comfortable as ever. The Futobashi center looked ugly. He looked at Atsushi Murasakibara, who was returning to defense, and clenched his fists. I know I can't beat him, but I can't let Atsushi Murasakibara easily score on me. He passed the basketball to the second bridge point guard and quickly ran to the inside of the front court. After the Futobashi point guard brought the basketball over, he immediately blocked Atsushi Murasakibara and stretched out his hand to signal the point guard to give the ball. The second bridge point guard naturally has no reason to refuse the captain's request, not to mention that the captain's current position is indeed the best. Urkio threw the basketball to the captain of Urkio in the open position. After catching the ball, the captain turned his back to the basket and prepared to attack. Teik's bench mourned for Captain Futobashi.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.